Chapter 280. Helene, this isn't a good idea. Elise said uneasily. She had helped a lot when she persuaded Feng Yenran. Now that she had the chance to save them, she didn't. This made Elise feel sorry for Feng Yenran and the others. What's not good about it? I didn't ask them to save me. Since they wanted to come, they should find a way to leave. Princess Helene was not moved at all. Uncle Du, let's go. Father must be waiting for us. Let's go. Du nodded and took Ogre and the others. The group left without looking back, leaving Feng Yenran and the other two standing alone in the hall. Take the three of them and lock them up together. Keep an eye on the two girls. After this is done, the leader and I will enjoy ourselves. Jacko looked at Feng Yenran and Zicheng with evil intentions. The two of them were great beauties, especially Feng Yenran, who was a rare beauty. If it wasn't for the fact that the time was not right, he really wanted to do the two of them right now. Shameless. Olian was so excited that he wanted to rush over and kill him. Unfortunately, with the demon binding bracelet, he couldn't touch a single hair on Jacko's head. Before Jacko even made a move, the small fries on the side had already stepped forward and kicked Olian until he spat out blood. Stop. All of you stop. Feng Yenran screamed in fear, but it was no use. The pirates still didn't want to let Olian go. All right, stop. Jacko felt that it was about time and snorted. The pirates immediately retreated to the side and didn't make a move. Feng Yenran and Zicheng immediately went to check on Olian's injuries. They saw that Olian's face was bruised from being hit by a group of pirates. They didn't know if they did it on purpose or not, but they were all hitting Olian's face. Take them all away and watch them. The small fries obeyed the order and took them away. The stone room where Feng Yenran and the other three were locked up was now only for the three of them. Ming Shi and Ajur already knew that Princess Harleen had been rescued. The stone room they were guarding was now empty, and there was no one left. The two of them had just gotten rid of the guard job and started to look for Feng Yenran. At this moment, Ming Shi did not know that not only Feng Yenran, but even Zicheng had been involved. At this moment, what was Feng Wu doing? She was eating. There was nothing wrong with being a maid. There was plenty to eat in the kitchen. Nara was in charge of the kitchen. Although she was a bit scheming, she was still quite generous. She would never treat the little maids unfairly in terms of food. Nara was also the daughter of a fisherman by the sea. She was the eldest child in her family, and they had 4 daughters and 3 sons in total. Because Na-er was the eldest child, she was not valued by her parents. If she was the daughter that her parents loved, she would not have been the one to be sacrificed. Although Nar was no longer an innocent and kind girl after 10 years of living on bewitching Wind Island, she did not mind showing a little kindness. She treated her maids better. At the very least, she would never skimp on the food they ate. Today, Feng Wu was assigned another task. She was to deliver prisoners to the prisoners in the prison. Although they were prisoners, the food prepared by the kitchen was very good. There were fish, meat, and even lobsters. It's just 3 prisoners. Is there a need to prepare so much good food? Nar opened the lid and looked at the dishes. Sister Na, you don't know. Just now, Vice Commander Jacko's men personally came over and told us to be more careful when cooking. There are 2 delicate guests inside that the Vice Commander wants to enjoy. Before the Vice Commander enjoys them, we have to take care of them well. The female cook said with a charming smile on her face. So that's how it is. I was wondering. Na flicked her handkerchief. How beautiful are those 2? How could someone like Vice Commander Jacko be interested in them? Vice Commander Jacko was different from Bardock, who Na relied on. Jacko had always had high standards for women. If they were not great beauties, he would not be interested in them. To be able to catch Jacko's eye, and 2 of them at once, Nara was curious about the 2 women's appearances. I heard the men outside say that both of them are extraordinarily beautiful. One of them is so beautiful that she's drooling. They all say that she's so beautiful that she doesn't seem like a woman of the mortal world. She's like a goddess from the heavens. The cook didn't read much. Are they really that beautiful? Nah, didn't quite believe it. That's just what I heard. Sister Nah, who's going to deliver the food? They're still waiting for it. In the end, the job of delivering the food fell to Fengwu. Probably because Princess Harleen had suffered at her hands last time, Nara immediately thought of Fengwu when she heard that she had to deliver the food to the two women. After giving the job of delivering the food to Fengwu carried a large tray and followed a burly pirate to the prison cell. After passing through the castle's great hall, they went down the passageway to the basement. After passing through a winding path, they finally arrived at the prison cell where the criminals were kept. The two burly guards opened the door and let Fengwu in to deliver the food. When Fengwu entered, she saw Feng Yanran using a wet cloth to clean the wounds on O'Brien's face. Zicheng was sitting at the side holding the cloth. When they heard someone enter, the three of them turned around at the same time. They saw that it was a maid who looked very ordinary. Time to eat. Fengwu placed the food on the tray. Let's eat. Although these pirates don't have much humanity, they won't poison the food. Zicheng smiled faintly and walked over to open the lid. The tray was filled with meat dishes. There were mutton, fish, and lobsters. It was very sumptuous. Let's go eat. Feng Yanran supported O'Brien as they walked over. O'Brien has wounds on his body. It's not suitable for him to eat such oily food. He can't eat seafood either. Isn't there any lighter food? Zicheng turned to ask Fengwu. The three of them didn't see through Fengwu's disguise. They only thought of her as an ordinary maid who delivered the food. This food was prepared by Vice Captain Jacko himself for the two ladies. The implication was that O'Brien was just a side dish. But O'Brien has wounds on his body. He can't eat these things. Feng Yanran angrily glared. What does that have to do with me? If you don't eat, I'll take it away. She could eat it herself. You. Feng Yanran was so angry that her face turned red, but she couldn't scold him. Forget it, Yanran. She's just a maid. Don't make things difficult for her. Zicheng knew a little about the origins of these maids. She had experienced it once. For those girls who had no choice but to serve the devil, Zicheng was very sympathetic. Chapter 281. Thinking of the maid who was killed by her in order to hide her identity, Zicheng's heart flashed with a trace of guilt. She really didn't want to hurt her. If the maid hadn't found her, she wouldn't have wanted to hurt those poor women. However, letting them live like walking corpses was better than letting them die. Maybe they could have a happy life in the next life. Thinking of this, Zicheng's heart didn't feel so bad. But O'Brien is injured like this, and we don't have any medicine. What should we do about his injuries? Feng Yanran said with a worried face. It was not that Feng Yanran had any special feelings for O'Brien. The reason why she was so good to him was just because of guilt. After all, the reason why O'Brien became like this had an inescapable relationship with her. O'Brien saw that the goddess in his heart was so concerned about him. His heart warmed, and the wounds on his body didn't hurt at all. It's okay, you don't have to worry too much. I've already seen O'Brien's wounds. They're just some flesh wounds, not very serious. As long as he recuperates for a few days, he will recover. Zicheng didn't lie. The wounds on O'Brien's body were really not serious. Although the wounds on his body looked scary, they were only broken skin and bleeding. The wounds weren't very deep. It was just that the bruises and bloody wounds all over his body looked scary. Although the food sent by these pirates wasn't very suitable for the injured, in this situation, they weren't willing to help you, so you could only accept it. Yanran, you don't have to worry. I'm fine. In a few days, these wounds will naturally heal. Unable to bear to see his sweetheart worried about him, O'Brien's cold face showed a trace of gentleness, and he softly comforted Feng Yanran. I'm sorry, O'Brien. It's all my fault. If I didn't pity Princess Helen and the others, you wouldn't have come with me to save them. I was too willful. Not only did I hurt myself, but I also hurt you. The more Feng Yanran said, the more guilty she felt. Her beautiful little face showed a trace of grievance, with a bit of sadness. How could O'Brien have the heart to blame her when she looked like she was about to cry? Don't talk about it any more. Let's eat before the dishes get cold. Zicheng sighed and said softly. The three of them then began to eat the food brought by Fengwu. Feng Yanran and Zicheng left the barbecued meat to O'Brien, while the two women ate the seafood that was not good for healing wounds. After they finished their meal, Fengwu took away the dishes and left the stone room. Wait a minute. Let her play with us for a while. Brother, you go back first. We'll help you send her back later. Fengwu was led by a pirate towards the passage leading to the surface. Unexpectedly, they were stopped by two pirates halfway through the passage. Fengwu was stopped by two pirates. The pirate responsible for bringing Fengwu back saw this and smiled ambiguously. How dare you do this in broad daylight? Aren't you afraid of being scolded by your boss? What's there to be afraid of? Our boss won't care about two small fries like us. The two pirates said unconcernedly. If you're not afraid, then fine. Remember to send her back when you're done. But you two aren't picky. This girl's looks aren't that great. Can't you find someone prettier up there? That person looked at Fengwu's ordinary face and shook his head. Well, each of us gets what we want. Besides, those pretty girls don't belong to us brothers. The two pirates sighed. Good luck. I've given her to you. Remember to send her back. Otherwise, be careful that Sister Na-er doesn't like you in front of the vice-captain. After saying this, he waved his hand and left. To these pirates, the maidservants on the island were nothing more than female slaves. Their mission was to serve the men on the island. Naturally, no one would care about this ugly maidservant's wishes. After that person left, the two pirates each grabbed one of Fengwu's hands and took her into a deserted passage. Then, they walked into an empty stone room and closed the door. Phew, Xiao Wu, is that you? It turned out that these two pirates were actually Ajur and Ming Shi. After the two of them were removed from their job as watchmen, they were brought back to their former team. Because of the female magician's invasion, many pirates were killed. Old B, who had been missing, was naturally treated as a victim and dealt with. The two of them had been pretending to be the original owner, so they hadn't been discovered. In the end, it was because their status was too low. The people they came into contact with were only small fries. Small fries didn't have much knowledge. Naturally, they wouldn't think that their partner who usually patrolled the island with them had changed. Since they didn't have to worry about their identities being discovered, the two of them would wander around and figure out the terrain. The two of them had already heard that Feng Yanran and O'Brien hadn't been taken away. Since Princess Hai Lin wasn't willing to save them, they had to save them themselves. Originally, they thought that since the people from the Bohai Kingdom had come, their workload would be lighter. They only needed to investigate the strange matter of Demon Wind Island. They didn't expect that the people from the Bohai Kingdom didn't take away Feng Yanran and O'Brien. This greatly increased their workload, and also increased the risk of being discovered. Today, they came out to survey the terrain as usual, but they didn't expect to find a little handmaiden walking towards them and winking at them. The two of them became suspicious of the little handmaiden's identity, which led to the scene of them taking her away. Ajur, Senior Ming Shi. Fengwu also didn't expect to meet them. When the person walking in front of them wasn't paying attention, she secretly winked at Ming Shi. Fortunately, they understood. Ming Shi and Ajur were really smart. Fengwu praised them in her heart. Xiao Wu, how come you came in dressed as a maid? How long have you been dressed like this? Did anyone suspect you? Ajur worriedly looked at the face in front of him, which didn't look like Fengwu at all. Fengwu was so dumb. Was it really okay to let her dress up as a maid? Wouldn't she be discovered by the pirates? Fengwu calmly shook her head. It's been 3 days, and no one has discovered me. Xiao Wu, did you find anything? Ming Shi asked. They had already walked around the first floor of the basement. Except for some forbidden areas that couldn't be entered without a guide, they had checked everything that could be checked. However, they still couldn't find the place where Feng Yanran and the others were. Fengwu nodded. Seeing her nod, Ajur and Ming Shi's eyes instantly lit up. They had been searching for so long but still couldn't find the stone room. They didn't expect Feng Wu to find it. It was really a surprise. I just went to deliver food to them. In addition to Feng Yanran and O'Brien, Zicheng was also in the stone room. When Feng Wu first saw Zicheng, she was a little surprised. Fortunately, she had always been introverted, so she wasn't discovered by the three people. Chapter 282. Zicheng is also here. Her training location should not be along this route, so how could she appear in this place alone? Is she alone, and the rest of her team is not here? Ming Shi asked. Yes, she is alone. Feng Wu said with certainty. Don't worry about how she got here. The three of them are locked together, so our task now has changed from saving 2 people to saving 3 people. Ajur expressed his dissatisfaction with the increasing workload. In his heart, he cursed the culprit of all this, Feng Yanran. If it were not for that woman, how could they fall into the pirate's lair, and risk being discovered at any time to save people? If Feng Yanran appeared in front of him now, he must give her 2 slaps to vent his anger. Xiao Wu, do you remember how to get there? Ming Shi asked. I remember, I will draw it for you. Feng Wu's memory was not bad, so it was not a problem to remember the route. Using a pen, she drew a simple map on a piece of cloth, and the stone room where Feng Yanran and the others were in immediately appeared on the paper. Great, we finally have a map. We will send you up first, and you don't have to worry about the rest. After we save people, we will send you a signal. When you hear the signal, you go to the cave and wait, and then we will leave together. Ajur did not want Feng Wu to be in danger, so he said. Feng Wu nodded obediently, and did not complain to follow, which made Ming Shi and Ajur very satisfied. Ming Shi touched the Feng Wu girl's head, and then sent Feng Wu back to the kitchen. After the 2 of them sent Feng Wu back, they immediately followed the map to find the room where Feng Yanran and the others were locked up. However, Ming Shi and the others did not know that in the stone room where Feng Yanran and the others were locked up, there was a situation that was neither big nor small. In the ground of the stone room where the 3 people were locked up, there was a hole that was just big enough to enter. Of course, this hole did not appear out of thin air, but was dug by Zicheng's pet, the treasure-seeking mouse. This treasure-seeking mouse was a very rare magical beast in the Heavenly Wind continent, and Feng Yanran had only heard of its name, but had never seen it before. Now that she finally saw one, she curiously looked at it several times. Zicheng, why did Bao Bao dig a hole here? Is it to let us escape from here? Feng Yanran asked curiously. As an expert at digging holes and finding treasures, the treasure-seeking mouse would dig a hole to get to the treasure if it was underground. The treasure-seeking mouse's ability to dig holes was even better than that of many Earth-type magical beasts. I don't know, maybe Bao Bao found something. Of course, Zicheng would not say that Bao Bao found a treasure underground, so it dug the hole to find it. Let's go down and take a look. If treasure-seeking mouse wants something, it can't be ordinary. O'Brien said with great interest. As everyone knew, treasure-seeking mouse's vision was the highest among all magical beasts. Unless it was a really good thing, it would not be interested in something that had a very high vision. The 3 of them crawled into the hole that had just been dug. The hole was very deep, and they could not see the end. They did not know how treasure-seeking mouse had dug such a deep tunnel in such a short time. About half an hour after the 3 of them left, Ming Shi and Ajur took care of the guards and used the key to enter the stone room where the 3 people were locked up. However, the 2 of them did not expect that they were still one step too late. The 3 people had already left the stone room and were nowhere to be seen. They dug a tunnel and ran away. Ajur was shocked. He had a whole new level of respect for the 3 of them. To be able to dig such a tunnel, and in a situation where magic was sealed, this was too incredible. You're thinking too much. They didn't dig this tunnel. This tunnel has the scent of a magical beast. Looks like they're hiding something. Ming Shi did not need to turn around to guess what Ozzy was thinking. He shook his head and said, Magical beast. The 3 of them are hiding a magical beast. Ajur raised his eyebrows in surprise. He thought that the three of them were so powerful that they could dig such a tunnel by themselves. Let's go in. The two of them exchanged glances and decided to follow the tunnel to take a look. Ajur walked in front, and Ming Shi followed behind. Ming Shi, who was walking at the back, used magic to restore the entrance of the tunnel to its original state. No one would be able to tell that there was a tunnel here before. The treasure-hunting mouse was not big, so it was impossible for it to dig a big tunnel. The tunnel was only big enough for one person to crawl in. It was not even possible for them to stand up. The three of them followed the tunnel dug by the baby treasure-hunting mouse and crawled for an hour. At that very moment, the outside world was in an uproar. Someone had broken into the stone room where the three of them were imprisoned. Additionally, the person inside had been rescued. The guards outside had also been killed. This was definitely a piece of news that infuriated the three great leaders of Yaofeng. What's going on? How could you let someone sneak onto the island without even knowing? What are you guys doing? What's the point of keeping you around? Evil Wind was furious. 3 criminals had been kidnapped in his territory. Even until now, he still didn't know who had done it. How could Yaofeng not be furious? Why wouldn't he be furious? Big brother, calm down. This is all because of our subordinates' incompetence. Big brother, please calm down. Jacko and I will definitely catch the intruder who dared to sneak onto the island to save people, Bardock said. That's right, big brother. We will definitely catch those 3 people, Jacko said fiercely. The small captains kneeling on the ground all became mutes. They did not dare to say a word. They were afraid that the 3 leaders would turn their attention to them and vent their anger on them. Did you find out anything? Have you confirmed the intruder's identity? How many people were there, whether they were men or women, what were their professions, and which faction sent them? Did you not find out anything at all? Jacko looked coldly at the 30 captains kneeling on the ground. In the Red Skull pirate group, other than the 3 leaders, there were 30 captains and vice-captains in charge of the hundreds of subordinates under them. These 30 captains were the strongest experts in the Red Skull pirate group other than the 3 leaders. They were also the trusted aides of the 3 leaders. Reporting to the leader. I found out that after the 3 people disappeared, 2 of them disappeared as well. Those 2 were just ordinary pirates. They didn't belong to any of the 30 captains' teams. That's why we didn't notice anything strange about them at the beginning. If Ming Shi and Ajur were here, they would definitely realize that the captain who spoke was the unknown captain that they had met at the beginning. Chapter 283. So, it's 2 men who sneaked up. Jacko nodded. Did anyone else find anything? If so, just say it. Bardock said impatiently. The 30 captains looked at each other and shook their heads. Forget it, get out of here. Hurry up and find those 2. Yaofeng waved his hand and signaled the captains to get down to work. His voice was full of impatience. After the 30 captains left, the atmosphere in the room didn't relax at all. Big brother, have you really decided? Jacko said with a worried face. That's right, big brother. We only have 1 water essence, so only 1 person can go. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. That place is where that person is sealed. It's too risky for Big Brother to go alone. Let's wait until we get more water essence from the other countries. Bardock said with the same worry. Yaofeng waved his hand. We don't have time now. Because of what we did a while ago, we have attracted the attention of some people. If we don't act soon, I'm afraid there will be more problems. You 2 don't need to persuade me anymore. I've already made up my mind. Pay attention to our brothers on the island for the next 2 days. I'm afraid that the Bohai royal family won't let this matter end so easily. Their people will probably arrive soon. Not to mention the result of the discussion between the 3 leaders, Ming Shi and Ajur had already been crawling in the tunnel for a while, but they still hadn't seen the end of the tunnel. The 2 of them were confused. Where did this tunnel lead to? Was it the beach? They couldn't think of anything, so they focused on crawling. They just didn't know when they would reach the end. Ming Shi and the others didn't know how much longer they would have to crawl, but Feng Yanran and the others had already reached the end. At the end of the tunnel was an underground palace. Who would have thought that there would be such a grand palace under Yao Feng Island? The palace was built with all kinds of magic crystals and ores. It took up a lot of space and was very grand. Could this be the Red Skull's treasure trove? If it was a grand building, if it wasn't the Red Skull's people, O'Brien couldn't think of anyone who could build such a grand palace under the Red Skull's nose. Are we going in? If it's really Red Skull's treasure trove, I don't know if there will be experts guarding it. Feng Yanran looked at the buildings in front of her with some worry. Don't worry, I don't think this place has anything to do with Red Skull. Zicheng said. Why do you say that? Of course, Zicheng could not tell them that she knew because of the system. Think about it, if Red Skull is really so rich that they can build such a palace, why would they kidnap Princess Helene and do business at sea without any capital? Feng Yanran and O'Brien thought about it and agreed. With so much money, why would they need to be pirates? They could just find a place to live comfortably for a few lifetimes. Who are you? Leave this place immediately. A clear female voice suddenly sounded. Then, a young girl in 7-colored clothes suddenly flew out of the palace. The young girl had red hair, but the tuft of hair on the top of her head seemed to have been dyed. There were a total of 6 colors, plus the red hair on her body. There were 7 colors. Originally, such a mess of colors on a person's head would definitely make her look like a madman. Even if she was not a madman, she would still be regarded as a non-mainstream person. However, these 7 colors matched the young girl very well, making the young girl look more charming. Sorry, we didn't come here on purpose. Feng Yanran thought that the young girl was the owner of this place and said to the young girl embarrassedly, "Leave here immediately, or die." The young girl raised her head high, looking very arrogant. At this time, Zicheng smiled and stepped forward. "I'm sorry, miss, we won't leave. There is something that Bao Bao is interested in here." Zicheng pointed to the treasure-hunting mouse. The treasure-hunting mouse had been very humble since the appearance of the young girl, and its 4 little paws were almost lying on the ground. This was a bloodline suppression that only appeared when a magical beast saw a bloodline of a higher level than itself. Zicheng and the others were not magical beasts, so naturally, they could not feel this suppression. "You're just a treasure-hunting mouse, and you want to take the things inside? I really don't know who gave you the courage." The young girl only glanced at the treasure-hunting mouse indifferently, her eyes full of disdain. Although the treasure-hunting mouse was despised like a grandson, it did not dare to make a sound and obediently lay on the ground. It was completely different from its usual lively appearance. Zicheng's mind moved and connected with the treasure-hunting mouse's mind. "Bao Bao, what's wrong with you?" Zicheng was a little worried about the treasure-hunting mouse's condition, so he asked with his mind. "Master," Bao Bao felt a strong bloodline suppression. "The girl in front of us must be a magical beast with a very high bloodline level, or even a holy beast." As for a divine beast, Bao Bao did not even dare to think about that possibility. Moreover, divine beasts could not transform into human form because their bloodline was too strong. This girl could transform into human form, which was enough to prove that she was not a divine beast. A holy beast. Zicheng's eyes lit up. She did not think that she would be so lucky to encounter a legendary holy beast. She did not have many magical beasts under her command, and she only had one holy beast. If she could get her hands on this holy beast, her strength would definitely increase again. Just thinking about it made Zicheng's heart burn with excitement. If this holy beast was useless, she could sell it to the system store in exchange for points. Then, she could buy anything she wanted. Zicheng and the treasure-hunting mouse's telepathic messages were ignored by the young girl. To her, these humans were just insignificant bugs that could not pose a threat to her. "Are you still not going to scram? Do you want me to send you away?" The young girl smiled coldly, and her temperament became noble and cold. "Miss, everyone can get the treasure. I advise you to step aside." After knowing the young girl's identity, Zicheng was not afraid. Instead, he was determined to get the treasure. Feng Yanran and O'Brien stood to the side without saying a word. They could see that Zicheng was determined to go against the young girl. "Since you want to die, I will send you on your way. Foolish human, you will pay the price for your ignorance." The young girl flipped her wrist, and a huge fire phoenix appeared from her hand. It fiercely pounced on Zicheng. "Come on!" Zicheng shouted, and a gorgeous staff appeared in her hand. After escaping from the stone room, she had exchanged something from the system that could be used to remove the demon sealing bracelet. As expected, the bracelet could no longer seal her magic. When the staff appeared, the young girl was stunned. It was as if she did not expect to see it here. Chapter 284. This is a semi-divine tool, the Staff of Life, the weapon used by the Elf King before he fell. Although it is no longer nourished by the Elf King's spiritual power and has fallen from a divine tool to a semi-divine tool, this kind of treasure shouldn't be owned by a human like you. The multicolor-clothed girl exclaimed in surprise. The Staff of Life was worthy of being the legendary divine tool used by the Elf King. Under the power of the Staff of Life, the girl's attack was easily blocked. The fiery red phoenix let out an unwilling cry in the sky and slowly dissipated in the air. Although the attack was successfully blocked, Zicheng also didn't have a good time. The magic power required to wield the semi-divine tool was very large. Just by blocking this attack, half of the magic power in her body had already been used up. "Stupid human, do you think anyone can use a semi-divine tool? You really overestimate yourself." The multicolor-clothed girl saw that Zicheng was barely able to use the semi-divine tool and that his magic power was almost exhausted. She disdainfully sneered. The girl waved her lily-white hand and a huge flame appeared out of thin air. Finally, it turned into several hundred fiery phoenixes. These phoenixes cried out and flew towards Zicheng with ominous glints in their eyes. Zicheng's complexion changed. He silently chanted an incantation and waved the Staff of Life in his hand, bringing out bursts of life aura. This life aura surrounded Zicheng. When the fiery phoenix's attacks hit the life aura, it had no effect on Zicheng. The number of fiery phoenixes in the sky kept increasing. The protective shield formed by the magic power of the Staff of Life was getting weaker and weaker. Finally, with a crash sound, the protective shield shattered into pieces and disappeared in the air. And because the Staff of Life was no longer supported by magic power, it became dim. After losing the protection of the Staff of Life, Zicheng was hit by the fiery phoenixes and was sent flying with serious injuries. After flying for 5 meters, he fell from the sky. After falling to the ground, he spat out a big mouthful of blood. His whole body was dispirited a lot. "A trifling human dares to provoke me." The girl gently flew up and slowly landed beside Zicheng's feet. She looked down at Zicheng, who was in such a sorry state. Feng Yanran, who originally wanted to check on Zicheng's injuries, was firmly held back by O'Brien. He was afraid that she would take things too hard and rush forward, becoming another target for that young girl. This young girl's battle prowess was terrifyingly strong. Defeating Zicheng didn't take much effort at all. It was like playing a game. With their strength, if they went forward, wouldn't they be courting death? The cold-faced O'Brien began to blame Zicheng. Just now, they had already said that they would be allowed to leave, but Zicheng was still so fearless and rushed forward. It was fine if she wanted to die, but did she not think that she would implicate him and Yanran? She labeled Zicheng as a selfish and self-reliant person who could not get close to her. She made up her mind to persuade Yanran to stay away from Zicheng in the future. She could not be used by this woman. If Irene knew O'Brien's thoughts, she would definitely nod in agreement. The heroine of this novel, Zicheng, was a person who looked weak and kind on the outside, but was actually selfish and cold-blooded. Zicheng and Feng Yanran gave people the impression that they were kind and gentle girls. However, although the style of the two was similar, there were essential differences. Zicheng's kindness was only directed at things that she thought could earn her favorability, and also towards people whose favorability had reached 100. To put it bluntly, her kindness was only directed towards her own people who had 100% favorability, and towards people or things that were of value to her. Feng Yenran, on the other hand, was a real Virgin Mary. Although she sometimes wanted to teach a lesson to people she didn't like, she would use a little tricks. But most of the time, she was a very Virgin Mary person. No matter what she did, she would do it from a kind point of view, regardless of whether it was right or wrong. She only cared about whether it was a kind thing or not. In Irene's mind, these two women were not good people. Irene was happy to see people who didn't have a good impression of either of them. Digression, back to the main topic. Zicheng was lying on the ground powerlessly. Blood was flowing from the corner of her mouth, and her face was as pale as paper. It was obvious that she was seriously injured. "You two, take this overconfident human and leave quickly. This place is not for you to come." The girl didn't want to kill anyone. She turned her head to look at Feng Yenran and O'Brien, and asked them to come and take her away. However, the girl didn't expect that the moment she turned her head, an unforeseen event suddenly happened. Zicheng, who was lying on the ground powerlessly and seriously injured, suddenly moved. She waved her small hand, and a black smoke quickly spread around Zicheng. The girl's clothes were stained with some black smoke. The girl's expression didn't change. She waved her sleeve, but found that she couldn't use her strength. Her body was getting weaker and weaker, and finally, she couldn't even maintain her human form. Despicable human! What did you do to me? The girl screamed with resentment, but she still couldn't stop her body from changing. Finally, she turned into a seven-colored bird and appeared in front of the three people. This seven-colored bird wasn't big. It was about the size of an ordinary pheasant, but its feathers were flowing with colorful light. It looked very extraordinary. "It's actually a seven-colored phoenix," Zicheng said in surprise. She used her points to exchange for a bottle of extreme recovery potion. After drinking it, the wounds on her body were almost completely healed. She jumped up and stood on the ground. This time, it was her turn to look at the girl who had turned into her original form. No, now it should be the mythical seven-colored phoenix. This is a seven-colored phoenix, the legendary mythical beast of the mythical beasts. Feng Yenran and O'Brien were already dumbfounded by this change. How did this girl turn into a seven-colored phoenix in the blink of an eye? Moreover, it was such a lofty mythical beast. No, this wasn't an ordinary mythical beast. It was a seven-colored phoenix that represented auspiciousness among the mythical beasts. This is too inconceivable. Why can she transform? Isn't it said that the mythical beast's bloodline is too powerful? While possessing a powerful bloodline talent, it is also deprived of the ability to transform. O'Brien looked at the mythical seven-colored phoenix in disbelief. If it wasn't for the fact that this bird's original form was exactly the same as the one he saw in the Mythical Beast Illustrated Handbook, he would have thought that he was seeing things. Zicheng didn't care about Feng Yenran and O'Brien's exclamations. Her attention was now focused on the mythical seven-colored phoenix that had fallen to the ground. The black smoke that she used to deal with the seven-colored phoenix was a secret medicine that she had exchanged with her favorability points and the system. This medicine wouldn't endanger Mo Gai's life, but it was effective against all magical beasts. Once touched by this smoke, no matter how powerful a magical beast was, even if it was a mythical beast, it would still be affected. Although this medicine wouldn't endanger one's life, as long as it was a magical beast, once touched by it, it would immediately lose all its abilities. Its strength would disappear and it would be at the mercy of others. Chapter 285. This medicine was so powerful, of course, it couldn't be used endlessly. This medicine could only be used once by a magical beast, and it would only be effective for 10 minutes each time. After 10 minutes, the magical beast's strength would gradually recover. In other words, if she couldn't kill or tame the magical beast within 10 minutes, she would be out of luck. Because this medicine was also effective on mythological beasts, it required a shocking amount of points. For this bottle of medicine, she had saved up a long time of goodwill, but it was almost emptied. However, thinking that she was about to have a mythological beast as a pet, she didn't care about this loss. She took out the rare beast contract scroll from her storage ring. From the name of this scroll, one could understand its use. It was specially used to tame magical beasts. The contract scroll Zicheng took out was of a very high level. She thought that she would succeed, but she didn't expect that after the scroll turned into a purple light and entered the body of the mythological beast, the seven-colored phoenix, there was no reaction at all. Because of the medicine, the seven-colored phoenix had been beaten back to its original form. Now, all its strength had been lost, and it didn't even have the strength to speak. It was filled with hatred. If it knew that this human was so sinister, it would have killed her long ago. It wouldn't have shown mercy. That hateful human also wanted to contract it. Who was it? It was a mythological beast that represented auspicious signs. Its master must be extremely beautiful, have an extremely powerful family background, and have the strongest bloodline. Otherwise, it would rather explode and die than submit to anyone. The seven-colored phoenix glanced at Zicheng with disdain. Its eyes were filled with indescribable ridicule and disdain. A mere beast dared to laugh at her. Don't think that just because the contract scroll was useless, she had no other way. She had plenty of ways to contract this mythological beast. It's useless. Junior Zicheng. This seven-colored phoenix is a mythological beast. It has the ability to choose its own master. If it was an ordinary mythological beast, you might be able to use force to subdue it. However, the seven-colored phoenix can't be subdued by force. It will only choose its own master. If it's someone it doesn't like, it won't submit even if you defeat it. Seeing Zicheng's actions, O'Brien finally understood what she wanted to do. He didn't want to see her wasting everyone's time doing meaningless things, so he could only speak up. Zicheng didn't speak. Her eyes were cold. A drop of blood was forced out from the tip of her tongue. This drop of blood dripped onto the seven-colored phoenix, and the seven-colored phoenix immediately cried out in pain. It couldn't believe that there was a human who dared to use such a disgusting blood contract with a mythological beast. Once the contract, and the contract, and the contract, and the contract, and the contract, 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 contract, of course. T. Blood pact. Zicheng. How dare she? O'Brien couldn't believe it. Because the blood contract was too cruel, it had long been banned on the continent. Any magician or swordsman who used the blood contract would become the public enemy of the magical beasts. The magical beasts in the world would kill them on sight, and the empires and star halls wouldn't care. She was willing to offend all the magical beasts in the world for a mythological beast. Feng Yanran also covered her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe that Zicheng, who had always been kind to others, would use such a cruel method to contract with a mythological beast. That was a mythological beast. A blood contract was a humiliation to any magical beast, let alone a mythological beast. It would definitely not give in. Feng Yanran suddenly had a bad premonition. She felt that something bad was going to happen. Sure enough, from the body of the seven-colored phoenix, there suddenly came a destructive will to die. The mythological beast self-detonated. Zicheng also didn't expect that the seven-colored phoenix would self-detonate its bloodline. She was sure that it couldn't mobilize any power, so she dared to use the blood contract to contract with this mythological beast. But she didn't expect that this mythological beast would rather die than give in. It would rather self-detonate its bloodline than let her contract with it. What kind of concept was a mythological beast self-detonating its bloodline? Within a radius of 1,000 miles, there wouldn't be any living thing that could survive. Feng Yanran and O'Brien's faces changed greatly. This was the rhythm of perishing together. Zicheng, stop! O'Brien shouted. Little Chung, don't! Feng Yanran screamed in horror. Zicheng wanted to stop, but once the blood contract was activated, unless the contract failed, she couldn't stop at all. She could only gamble. If she succeeded, she would get a mythological beast. If she failed, she could just hide in the system space. She wouldn't die either way. After making up her mind, Zicheng didn't retreat. Instead, she became even more determined. The destructive aura shrouded the sea with Monster Wind Island as the center. The water-type demonic beasts in the sea all fled in panic. They swam further away, eager to escape the lock of this power. The demonic beasts in the water fled like crazy. When some ships passed by and saw this scene, the experienced helmsman immediately changed the direction and fled further away, changing the original course. All the water-type demonic beasts fled in panic. Even the flying demonic beasts in the sky sped up when they passed by this area. They fled at a speed that they had never seen before. This strange scene kept happening, but only a small number of people were lucky enough to see it. The sea pirates of Monster Wind Island had lived on the sea for generations. They certainly couldn't ignore the strange movements of the water-type demonic beasts. Instead, they reported it one by one, and finally reported it to the three masters of Monster Wind Island. Monster Wind Island was preparing to go to that place to get the treasure that he had been longing for. He didn't expect such a big thing to happen before he left. The three leaders gathered together to discuss why such a thing happened, whether there had been such an example in the past, and what kind of impact it would have on bewitching Wind Island. Fengwu, who was among the maids, was chatting with the other maids. These maids didn't have endless work to do all day long. They also had time to rest, such as now. Do you think something happened in the sea? Why are those demonic beasts running for their lives? How would we know? It can't be anything good. Who cares? Anyway, even if the sky falls, those men outside will hold it up. It has nothing to do with us. Fengwu watched as the girls chimed in one after another. She didn't say a word and just stared out the window in a daze. Chapter 286. Through the window, she saw the sea. This was the death aura, and the will of death. Who was seeking death? Not to mention the various changes caused by the explosion of the seven-colored phoenix, which made the people outside uneasy and terrified. Feng Yanran and O'Brien, who were closest to Zicheng and the seven-colored phoenix, were so scared that their hearts almost stopped. Both of them thought that Zicheng was crazy. He would rather die than give up the opportunity to contract the seven-colored phoenix. Crazy. What a lunatic. Crazy. He was really crazy. Was Zicheng really crazy? Of course not. He had just thought of his own escape route, so he was fearless. Just when Feng Yanran and O'Brien thought that they would die here, two unexpected figures appeared. Ming Shi and Ajur crawled all the way, and when they were about to crawl out of the cave, they felt a frightening destructive force. This force was too strong. Ming Shi immediately reacted. This was the powerful force formed by the explosion of a mythological beast. The two of them were stunned. They just came to chase Feng Yanran and the others. How could they expect that a mythological beast would explode here? Although they had not personally experienced the power of a mythological beast's self-destruction, it was not difficult for them to imagine how powerful the destructive power was. Once a mythological beast self-destructed, it would be easy for it to destroy a country. Even if the two of them were extraordinary and had their own means, they really did not want to experience the power of a mythological beast's explosion. The two of them sped up, and when they finally crawled out of the cave, they did not have time to see how magnificent the palace was. Among the two of them, one of them directly hit Zicheng with a fireball, and the other one picked up the seven-colored phoenix on the ground and used nature's qi to prevent it from exploding. Ah! Zicheng screamed. Ajur's fireball hit his back, and he spat out a big mouthful of blood on the spot. Feng Yanran and O'Brien were stunned by this sudden change, and then they were overjoyed. Senior Ming Shi. The two of them had never been so happy to see Ming Shi. You too, when we get back, I will report the matter of you leaving the team without permission to the vice principal. I hope that this will be the last time you act without permission before returning to school. Ming Shi saw the two of them and smiled faintly, but there was no smile in his eyes. How could the two of them dare to have any objections? They immediately nodded like garlic. Just now, they really thought that they were dead for sure. It wasn't that the two of them didn't want to break Zicheng's contract, it was just that their mana was still sealed. They didn't know why Zicheng's mana wasn't sealed and could still use it, but they couldn't. If they could use their mana, they would have already run away. Why would they stand here and wait for death? Senior Ming Shi, I'm sorry. This time it's all my fault. I proposed to help Princess Hai Lin. It has nothing to do with Yenran. O'Brien was still protecting Feng Yenran. She didn't want Feng Yenran to be punished by the school because of this matter. No, it's me, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have been so willful. I even contacted O'Brien. Feng Yenran said eagerly. Yenran, it's not your fault. You don't have to admit this crime for me. O'Brien would rather have something happen to herself than let the girl she liked be hurt in the slightest. No, it's my fault. O'Brien, you don't have to protect me. Feng Yenran shook her head desperately, and tears flowed down her face. Ming Shi and Ajur couldn't be bothered to watch the two of them fight to plead guilty. No matter which one of them pleaded guilty, it was a fact that both of them would be arrested. Both of them would definitely be punished. Even if one of them admitted to the crime, the other would not be spared. The Rainbow Phoenix thought that it was going to die. It didn't plan to live anymore. As a mythological beast, it had its own dignity. It would never allow a human to use such a disgusting method to force a contract with it. Its consciousness was already blurred. It only felt that the power in its body was becoming more and more violent, and that sinister human's blood contract was also pressing down heavily on it. It didn't have the slightest bit of strength now, and could only resist with its willpower. At this moment, it felt a very comfortable power circulating in its body. Then, its strength actually recovered little by little. The Rainbow Phoenix was pleasantly surprised. It opened its eyes, and saw a beautiful face in front of it. This face was too beautiful, and it could feel the noble bloodline of a god on his body. Little thing, are you okay? Ming Shi put it on the ground and asked with a smile. He knew that mythological beasts were born with spiritual intelligence. This Rainbow Phoenix's spiritual intelligence was definitely not low. Joe. It called out excitedly, and then slowly flew up. Its pair of beautiful eyes stared at Ming Shi without blinking. It even forgot about its enemy, Zicheng. Come here. Ming Shi stretched out his hand. Joe. After a gentle cry, the Rainbow Phoenix slowly stopped on Ming Shi's inner arm. You have 7 colors. I'll call you Little 7 from now on. Ming Shi said softly as he patted the little thing's head. Joe. The 7-colored phoenix named Little 7 was very happy. She finally met a human who was qualified to be her master. This human was gentle, had a noble bloodline, and was so beautiful. She was the ideal master for the 7-colored Phoenix clan. Little 7 waved her wings to form a contract array. This was the highest level of symbiotic contract that magical beasts voluntarily formed. The so-called symbiotic contract was a contract that magical beasts took the initiative to form with humans. Once this contract was formed, the master and pet could share each other's life. For example, if your pet could live for 100,000 years, then you would have the same lifespan as your pet. At the same time, both master and pet could use half of the other's power. For example, Ming Shi could now use the Phoenix's innate ability, and Ming Shi's bloodline ability could also be used by Little 7. The benefits of the symbiotic contract were not limited to this. If one of the master and pet was injured, the other could use the contract's power to heal the other. Although the injury could not be completely healed, it could at least heal about 50% of it. Feng Yenran and O'Brien could no longer compete to take the main responsibility. They were already stunned by the sudden change. Was this still the 7-colored phoenix that would rather die than submit, the one that refused to be contracted by anyone? This Rainbow Phoenix was just planning to die together with Zicheng. It did not expect that once Senior Ming Shi came, he did not use any method and the Rainbow Phoenix would only form a contract with Senior Ming Shi. Moreover, it was the most enviable symbiotic contract among all contracts. Was this because Zicheng's character was bad, or was Senior Ming Shi's character too good? This was a serious question. They had to think about it carefully. Chapter 287. Because Ming Shi and the Rainbow Phoenix had completed the highest level of symbiotic contract, the Rainbow Phoenix's self-destruction stopped. The magical beasts in the sea calmed down. Although they didn't know what had happened, they were safe. Woo! So moved. Now they didn't have to die. The magical beasts collectively wiped their tears. They all had the urge to escape. Fengwu looked at the sea in confusion. The will to die had disappeared. The destructive power had also disappeared. What happened? Senior Ming Shi. Congratulations on obtaining the divine beast Rainbow Phoenix. Aju's eyes were calm as he congratulated Ming Shi. O'Brien and Feng Yanran came back to their senses and immediately went to Ming Shi's side to congratulate him on successfully contracting with the divine beast. But when the two of them spoke, their eyes were filled with envy. Obviously, the impact on their hearts wasn't small. Aju, help them get rid of the demon sealing bracelet. Ming Shi said. Okay. Aju agreed without hesitation. If they wanted to leave this place, it was necessary for them to recover their strength. It was easy to destroy the demon sealing bracelet. As long as they kept pouring magic into it, it would naturally disintegrate when the bracelet couldn't bear it anymore. Because of the way the demon sealing bracelet was unsealing, it was impossible to rely on one's own strength to undo it. It could only be done with the help of others. And the strength of the person who poured magic into it couldn't be too low. If the strength was too low, the person who poured magic into it would collapse before the demon sealing bracelet disintegrated. Although Aju was only a first-year student, his true strength couldn't be calculated like this. No matter what, he was still the successor of the 4 God Seals. To be able to become the host of the 4 God Seals, Aju naturally couldn't be at the same level as an ordinary first-year student. His hands exerted force and an endless amount of magic was poured into the demon sealing bracelet. The demon sealing bracelet's color became redder and redder. Finally, it turned into a pile of scrap iron and fell to the ground. Thank you, Aju. Thank you, Junior Aju. Feng Yanran and O'Brien felt that their magic power had been restored. They were pleasantly surprised and thanked Aju. Aju indifferently stood behind Ming Shi, making it clear that he didn't want to pay attention to the two of them. The narrow-minded Aju would never forget that it was because of these two that he had to disguise himself as a pirate. He had to suffer for several days in a pirate's lair, unable to eat or sleep well. He had made up his mind to find an opportunity to make these two pay for what they had done. Ah! What about Zicheng? Why is she gone? Feng Yanran inadvertently glanced at the direction where Zicheng had fallen, only to find that Zicheng, who was supposed to be lying on the ground, had disappeared. Feng Yanran was taken aback and could not help but exclaim. Although she was a little angry that Zicheng did not care about her and O'Brien's life and death and insisted on forming a contract with the Rainbow Phoenix, and that she had recovered her magic power, but had never thought of saving her and O'Brien. This made Feng Yanran feel uncomfortable. However, although she was uncomfortable, Feng Yanran had never thought of letting Zicheng have an accident. What's going on? Is there some unknown danger here? O'Brien was secretly alert. Don't think about it. She ran away by herself, and she ran into the palace. I don't know why she ran away in such a hurry. Aju had already seen that Zicheng had run away by herself, but he did not want to be nosy, so he was too lazy to say anything. Besides, Zicheng was not in their group, so why should he care about her? No. We can't let her go in there. Little Seven anxiously used her mind to contact Ming Shi and shouted. You're saying that we can't go in there? Is there some danger inside? Ming Shi asked directly. There is an important seal inside. Father's friend said that we can't break that seal, or else a demon will be released. There was another series of voices, but other than Ming Shi, no one could understand what it was saying. It's really strange. She could clearly transform just now, and she even talked to us. Why is she not talking now? Feng Yanran said strangely. There were too many things just now, so I didn't think too much about it. Now that I think about it, mythological beasts do not have the ability to transform. How could she transform successfully? This is not allowed by the heavens. The girl we saw at the beginning should have been transformed by her using the phoenix's magic. In fact, the one standing in front of us has always been her original body. It's just that we were deceived by the illusion, so we thought it was a girl." O'Brien quickly figured out the crux of the matter and explained to Feng Yenran in a low voice. "I see. Then why can't we understand what she's saying now?" "We could clearly understand it just now." Feng Yenran asked again. O'Brien thought for a moment. "It's probably because she has now recognized a master. In the future, unless she wants to, no one other than her master will be able to understand what she's saying." A bird like the rainbow phoenix, other than its master, looked down on any human beings. Just now, it was probably because they had intruded into her territory that she had transformed into a girl to talk to them and wanted to drive them away. Now that she had a master, she would naturally not pay attention to the people she looked down on. If you want to understand what she's saying, you'll have to wait until she's in a good mood to talk to you. O'Brien had also read about these things in books, but in order not to let Feng Yenran know that she was looked down on by a bird, which would only make her feel uncomfortable, he did not tell Feng Yenran about these things. "Ajur, you take them to find Xiao Wu first. I'll go in and find Zicheng." After knowing what was sealed inside from Little Seven, even with Ming Shi's shrewdness, he could not help but slightly change his expression. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Ajur's reply, he left everyone behind and flew into the sky with the rainbow phoenix, flying into the huge palace complex. Ajur originally wanted to go with Ming Shi, but unfortunately, before he could say anything, he was already left behind by Ming Shi. He wanted him to take these two people away, but where were they going? Where was the exit? Ajur looked around. Other than the hole they came from, there was no other way to leave. So, were the three of them going to dig a way out themselves? Ming Shi did not know what Ajur and the others were thinking. He was now following Little Seven's instructions and flying quickly, hoping to find Zicheng before the great mistake was cast. Otherwise, if there was a problem with the seal, it would undoubtedly be a disaster for the sea creatures. Zicheng held the flying scroll in his hand and followed the treasure-hunting mouse forward at top speed. The rainbow phoenix had already failed, and she did not want to lose another treasure inside. She did not expect Ming Shi and Ajur to appear in this place and stop her. But it was good that they stopped her. She had a feeling that this contract had a 60% chance of failure. Chapter 288. If the blood contract failed, the rainbow phoenix would explode and die. Within a few hundred meters or even a few thousand meters around Evil Wind Island, all the islands and creatures would be destroyed. She was too impulsive just now. She knew that the things in this palace were very useful to her. The rainbow phoenix was obviously the divine beast in charge of guarding this place. If she couldn't contract or kill the rainbow phoenix, it would be impossible for her to get the things inside. Zicheng regretted that she didn't kill the seven-colored phoenix when it lost its ability to fight. Instead, she wanted to form a contract with it. If she knew that the beast was so stubborn, she wouldn't have wasted time to form a contract with it. Now that Ming Shi and Ajur were here, the seven-colored phoenix clearly had nothing to do with her anymore. She couldn't let the treasures in this palace slip away. She had to get the treasures before anyone else entered this place. Thinking of this, she flew even faster. At the same time, she urged the treasure-hunting mouse to run faster. In Zicheng's mind, Feng Yenran and O'Brien weren't qualified to compete with her. The only two people she was afraid of were Ming Shi and Ajur. Ming Shi's origin was a mystery. There were rumors that she was a member of the royal family of the four big empires. She was very likely a descendant of the divine blood. Ajur was the successor of the four divine seals. Zicheng didn't know how strong he was. She could only guess that he wasn't weaker than her. If the two of them worked together, it would be very difficult for her to get the treasures under their noses. Therefore, she had to run faster now. Zicheng and Ming Shi were running and chasing. One had the treasure-hunting mouse, and the other had the rainbow phoenix, so it was impossible for them to learn the path. After running in the palace for half an hour, she finally came to a room with blooming black lotuses. This room was very strange. There was only one pool in the room. The water in the pool was black, and there were a few black lotuses blooming in the black water. The fragrance of the black lotuses was light and elegant, but it carried a trace of evil qi, which made Zicheng secretly vigilant. Of course, Zicheng's target was not those few black lotuses. Those black lotuses had a name, which was Hell's Black Lotus. Legend had it that they only grew in places with dense devil qi. The Hell Black Lotus was a rare species in the devil realm. Ordinary devils simply couldn't obtain it. Who would have thought that a demonic plant like the Hell Black Lotus would grow in this human world? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. Although the Hell's Black Lotus was precious, it was only to the demons of the demon realm. To humans, the Hell's Black Lotus was not only a bad thing, but also a poison that should not be touched. Once touched, it was very likely that one would be demonized into a monster. Of course, Zicheng wouldn't want such a thing. Her real target was the long sword in the Black Lotus pool. On the hilt of the sword, Long Fei and Feng Wu used the ancient language to carve the two words, demon suppression. It was enough to show that this sword was at least an item from ancient times. The body of the sword was completely black, but there wasn't the slightest trace of devil qi surrounding the sword. It could be seen that this sword had not been demonized. Demon suppression sword? Zicheng softly read out the name of the sword. System, if I pull out this sword, will it affect me in any way? Zicheng was not a fool. The two words, demon suppression, on the sword were so big. It could be seen that this sword was left here to seal. She was worried that if she rashly took away this sealed sword, it would affect her. She didn't want to release a big guy that she couldn't deal with. Host, this sword is called demon suppression. It is a holy weapon. The system sensed that the demon being suppressed under this sword is not a small matter. If the host pulls out this sword, the entire ocean world and the nearby island countries will be affected. It is very likely that rivers of blood will flow, and there will be endless slaughter. Because the host has the support of the system space, even if the host pulls out the demon suppression sword, it will not affect the host. The system's voice carried a trace of mechanical tone. That means there won't be any harm to her, right? Zicheng faintly smiled. She didn't care about the consequences of pulling out the demon suppression sword. As long as it didn't affect her, there was no problem. For Zicheng, as long as it didn't affect her, she didn't care about rivers of blood. At worst, when her strength reached a certain level, she would kill this demon to avenge those innocent people who died tragically. After making up her mind, Zicheng quickly calmed down. What she needed to do now was to quickly pull out the sword. She didn't have much time. If Ming Shi and Ajur arrived, they definitely wouldn't give her the chance to pull out the sword. She strode to the edge of the lotus pond and used the flight scroll to make a light leap. Her entire body gently landed on the water surface. With the protection of the flight scroll, she was not worried that she would fall into the Black Lotus pond. Standing on the water surface, she stretched out her slender hand, wanting to pull out the sword. "Stop!" An unfamiliar male voice shouted. Then, an invisible sword qi attacked her. Zicheng could feel the terrifying sword qi and didn't dare to be careless. She could only jump back and return to the shore. How dare you break the seal? If you don't want to live, don't think that you can drag everyone on Bewitching Wind Island to die with you. The person who came was Bewitching Wind. He originally wanted to obtain the two Hell Black Lotuses, but when he saw someone trying to pull out the demon suppression sword, he was so scared that he almost couldn't recover. The first generation Bewitching Wind was one of Longze Gamer's followers. After Longze Gamer left, the first generation Bewitching Wind was ordered to stay here to guard the seal. Other than Bewitching Wind, there was also a good friend of Longze Gamer's who was said to be a very powerful seven-colored phoenix. According to the legends, Longze Gamer wanted to form a contract with the five-colored phoenix. Unfortunately, his bloodline and appearance didn't meet the five-colored phoenix's requirements to choose a host. In the end, although Longze Gamer didn't form a contract with the five-colored phoenix, he still became good friends with it. Otherwise, the phoenix race wouldn't have sent someone to guard the seal here. Every generation of Bewitching Wind knew the secret under Bewitching Wind Island. They stayed on Bewitching Wind Island for no other reason than to guard the seal. Of course, they also really liked the lucrative career of being a pirate. Xiao Qi's father was Longzi Gamer's good friend, the powerful five-colored phoenix. Xiao Qi's bloodline was even stronger than her father's. She evolved from a five-colored phoenix to a seven-colored phoenix, becoming an auspicious beast among the divine beasts. Xiao Qi's father kicked her to this place when she was young to guard this place for him. Other than telling her to be careful of humans, he didn't say much. Xiao Qi's father accompanied her mother to the spiritual realm to play. He probably forgot that his daughter was still in the human realm to guard the seal for him. Chapter 289. Yao Feng knew that apart from the previous generations of Yao Fengs, there was an elite from the Phoenix clan guarding this place. However, he had never seen the elite from the Phoenix clan. He didn't even know that Xiao Qi's father had been replaced by Xiao Qi. Some time ago, he found a piece of or from outer space in the deep sea. He collected thousands of precious materials and planned to use the ore as a base to forge a holy weapon. It was easy to forge a holy weapon. However, with the help of the ore and the blacksmith master that the three brothers had hired, it was not impossible. Unfortunately, the blacksmith master wanted to use the Hell's Black Lotus as a reward. Yao Feng knew that the blacksmith master didn't want to help him. That was why he came up with this plan to make Yao Feng back off. Others might not be able to fulfill such a request. However, it was not impossible for Yao Feng. The previous generation of Yao Feng had been to this place before. He had seen the Hell's Black Lotus. In order to get the blacksmith master to help him, Yao Feng naturally wanted to break the seal. Although he wanted to get the Hell's Black Lotus, he had never thought of breaking the seal. He knew how powerful the thing under the seal was. He wouldn't be able to break the seal unless he had a death wish. However, Yao Feng did not expect that when he finally managed to control the essence of water and was able to pluck the Hell's Black Lotus without fear of the devil Qi, he discovered that an outsider had broken into this sealed land. Furthermore, this woman was planning to destroy the seal. Yao Feng was shocked and furious. How could he let Zi Cheng, the culprit who almost caused the destruction of Yao Feng Island, off? If I'm not wrong, you're the owner of Yao Feng Island. Yao Feng. Zi Cheng had never seen Yao Feng before, but she quickly guessed his identity. It was all thanks to Yao Feng's weapon that she was able to guess his identity so quickly. Everyone knew that Yao Feng's weapon of choice was a saber. Even though he was a swordmaster, he used a saber. Furthermore, it was a demon saber forged from demon bones. There were demonic beasts and demon beasts in this world. Most demon beasts were bloodthirsty and cruel. They were born to fight. They lived in the demon world and rarely came to the human world. The demon blade in Yao Feng's hand was made by the first generation Yao Feng using the bones of a demon beast that had entered the saint stage. It was considered a very powerful weapon. Good eyesight. That's right. I am Yao Feng. I don't care who you are. Since you dared to break the seal here, you will die. Yao Feng looked at Zicheng and said overbearingly. Yao Feng wanted to kill Zicheng long ago. Although he also liked beautiful women, and Zicheng was a rare beauty, so what? As long as she dared to break the seal, even if she was as beautiful as a goddess, she would still die here. Zicheng took out his Staff of Life and used his 5 elemental attacks, intending to gain the initiative by striking first. Yao Feng was a master of the Big Sword sect. How could he be afraid of a junior like her? He unleashed a torrent of sword qi towards Zicheng. He used only his sword qi to break through all of Zicheng's attacks. As a master of the Big Sword sect, it was impossible for him not to have his own sword intent. The sword intent that Yao Feng had comprehended was water and wind. His sword techniques were like a torrential flood and as fast as the wind. To deal with a nobody like Zicheng who wasn't even a great magician, Yao Feng didn't even need to use his sword intent. Just his sword qi was enough to make Zicheng break out in cold sweat. Although Zicheng had the Staff of Life, in the face of absolute power, even a god artifact wouldn't be useful. It was like giving a child a super god artifact. How could you expect that child to immediately kill a god? Similarly, Zicheng was only an intermediate magician. Although a semi-god artifact was useful, she couldn't use it with her current strength. When she fought with Xiao Qi, she didn't end up in such a sorry state because Xiao Qi didn't want to kill her. Xiao Qi only wanted to chase her away. Otherwise, with Xiao Qi's strength, he could have burned her to ashes with his life flame. Yao Feng's strength was more than one realm higher than Zicheng's. If she wanted to defeat Yao Feng, she would have to use the system to exchange for an item that could instantly decide the outcome of the battle. Otherwise, it was almost impossible. However, an item that could defeat someone who was a few realms higher than her could only be exchanged with a few points. She had already used up most of her points to deal with the seven-colored phoenix. Now, it was impossible for her to use her points to buy an item that could decide the outcome of the battle. Zicheng carefully dodged a sword shadow. Although she dodged quickly, she still couldn't outrun Yao Feng's sword. Just as she dodged the attack, another attack hit her shoulder. She fell into the water of the Black Lotus Pond. Zicheng wouldn't have ended up in such a sorry state. With her strength and all the good items on her, she could have escaped even if she couldn't defeat Yao Feng. Unfortunately, she forcefully activated her blood contract with the seven-colored phoenix and was forcefully interrupted by a jur. This caused her to suffer a backlash and she suffered severe internal injuries. Although she had drunk health potions and recovery potions on her way here, her injuries were too severe. They couldn't be healed instantly. It was normal for Zicheng to be beaten up when she was severely injured. Even the female lead couldn't be invincible in this world right from the start. When Zicheng fell into the Black Lotus Pond, Ming Shi finally arrived. By the time Ming Shi arrived, Zicheng had already sunk into the pond. There was no movement in the pond at all. Seeing another intruder, Yao Feng wanted to turn around and fight again. However, when he saw a certain life form beside Ming Shi, his eyes widened in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and he thought, "I'm not dreaming, right? Lord Phoenix. I'm not dreaming, right? I actually saw Lord Phoenix's beast shadow." His father and grandfather had never even seen a phoenix's feather before. He was better than his father and grandfather in this aspect. Yao Feng was so excited that he looked like he had seen a superstar. There were even pink bubbles in his eyes. "Your friend?" Ming Shi was getting goosebumps from the muscular man's stare. He turned around and asked his new favorite pet, "Is he your friend?" "I don't know this guy. However, I think I know who he is." Little Seven tilted his head and thought for a moment. Then, he transmitted his voice to Ming Shi. "Are you this generation's Yao Feng?" Little Seven's voice entered Yao Feng's ears. It wasn't a squabble. It was using the common language of the continent. As expected, you could only understand what the seven-colored phoenix was saying when it wanted you to. "Yes, that's me. I didn't expect to see Lord Phoenix's true face. If my father and grandfather knew about this, they would be so jealous of me." Yao Feng wiped his tears excitedly. If the man who was wiping his tears didn't admit that he was Evil Wind, the leader of the Red Skull, Ming Shi wouldn't have been able to connect a pirate who had killed countless people with this guy who was wiping his tears in admiration of his pet. Chapter 290. There was a reason why Yao Feng was so excited to see Little Seven. When Yao Feng was very young, his father would tell him the story of how the first Yao Feng traveled the world with Longza Gamer as a bedtime story. In the story, there were a few people who appeared frequently, and one of them was the five-colored phoenix. The five-colored phoenix helped a friend fight against the demon race, and after the battle, she promised to help guard Bewitching Wind Island. Little Yao Feng liked the story very much when he was young. What he admired the most was people who were willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of their brothers. How could he not be excited when he finally saw the legendary Lord Phoenix? However, this fellow would never have thought that the Lord Phoenix in his imagination, who would risk her life to protect her friends and the human world, had already brought her wife out to play. Poor Little Seven, on the other hand, had been thrown here by his unscrupulous father to guard this sealed land on his behalf. Little Seven understood that this guy was treating him as his father. However, Little Seven was too lazy to explain. "Yao Feng, let me ask you. Did you see an annoying woman come here just now? Little Seven was still holding a grudge against Zicheng for forcing him to contract with him. His dignity as a mythical beast could not be trampled on by a mere human. If he did not make that despicable human pay the price, he would write his name backwards. An annoying woman? Yao Feng was stunned at first. However, he soon understood who Lord Phoenix was talking about. Yes, a woman came here. Furthermore, that woman wanted to pull out the demon-suppressing sword that Lord Longza Gamer personally placed here and release the sealed demon general. That woman must be a spy that infiltrated the human world, Yao Feng said solemnly. If she wasn't a spy, why would she pull out the demon-suppressing sword? Although the sword was very precious, the entire world on the sea might turn into hell after pulling it out. In this world, there was no other Lord Longza Gamer to seal this demon again. And after the seal was removed, the first ones to fall into hell would definitely be all the living beings on Bewitching Wind Island. That woman wielded the demon-suppressing sword and would definitely be the first target to be attacked. Her attitude of pulling out the sword was so firm that she was certain that nothing would happen to her. To be so sure, unless she was on the same side as the people of the Devil Realm, why would a dignified ancient Devil General let a human go? One had to know that that person had been sealed by the humans back then. After breaking the seal, it was already merciful for that person not to kill all of the humans in revenge. Zicheng, don't accuse me like that. Your whole family is traitors of the Devil Realm. Where is that woman? I want to teach her a lesson myself. Little Seven was too lazy to care about what Yao Feng said. What it wanted to do now was to drag that bad woman out and beat her up. Yao Feng pointed at the Black Lotus Pond and said, "He was too heavy-handed just now. I knocked him down." If he had known that His Excellency would want to teach her a lesson personally, he would have left her alive no matter what. He was done for. He had killed the person that Lord Phoenix wanted to deal with. Would Lord Phoenix bear a grudge against him? Yao Feng's heart was in a mess. He was unsure of Lord Phoenix's attitude towards this matter. Ming Shi, on the other hand, was still wondering where Zicheng had gone. He did not expect to hear such an answer from the demonic wind gap. This is the place where the ancient Devil General was sealed? Ming Shi pointed at the Black Lotus Pond. Little Seven had already told him the secret of this place when they were on the way here. He did not expect that a pirate's nest would be related to Longza Gamer, who was almost deified thousands of years ago. Moreover, there was an ancient Devil General sealed on Demon Back Island. If Little Seven had not told him this, he would not have believed that the most powerful person by the ancient Devil's side would be sealed in the underground of a pirate's nest. Yes, that person was sealed here by Lord Longza Gamer personally. Look at the water. He is indeed an ancient Devil General. His demonic aura has polluted the original spiritual pond and turned it into a demonic pond. He even bloomed a demonic flower like the Hell's Black Lotus. Such pure demonic aura could only be possessed by the earliest few ancient devils. She didn't float to the surface? Ming Shi asked again. No, she didn't even flop. She just sank to the bottom, the demonic wind said, seeing that Ming Shi and his Lord Phoenix had come in together. Ming Shi squinted his eyes and pondered for a moment. He did not believe that Zicheng would die so easily. Although he did not spend much time with Zicheng, he could tell that Zicheng was not an ordinary person. There would always be something special about her. For example, the poison that she used to deal with Little Seven was very special. It was not that there were no special medicines that could work on mythical beasts in this world. However, no matter what kind of medicine it was not something that Zicheng, who came from a small aristocratic family, could possess. He had already sent people to investigate Zicheng's background. He had also found out everything about her since she was young. What made him feel the strangest was that Zicheng seemed to have a special charm that made people like to get close to her. They were even willing to ignore the interests of their families for her. For the aristocratic children who had been taught that the interests of their families were more important than anything, it was a huge problem for them to ignore their families for a woman. Moreover, there were more than one person who did so. No matter how he thought about it, Ming Shi felt that this woman was not simple. There was another woman who had the same problem as her. That was Irene. Back in the tomb of the god of sin. The fact that Irene was able to emerge as the final victor in the tomb of the god of sin while being surrounded by so many experts, and the way she escaped from the hands of so many experts, made Ming-Shi have no choice but to focus on Irene. In the past decade, more and more people from the demon realm, cultivation realm, and blood clan had infiltrated the human world. The Four Empires and Notre Dame du Starlight had sent a large number of people to investigate openly and secretly every year. Ming-Shi had already noticed some problems with Zicheng and Irene, but the two of them had never known about it. Although the results of the investigation later showed that these two people did not show any signs of being possessed, the abnormalities of these two people still made Ming-Shi unable to relax his surveillance of these two people. He was even more afraid of Zicheng's ability to disturb people's minds. Ming-Shi could not believe that Zicheng would die so easily in the hands of Yao Feng because of all the different things about her. As long as there was no corpse, Ming-Shi could not believe that Zicheng would die so easily. Reality proved that Ming-Shi's intuition was right. Zicheng was indeed not dead. The moment she fell, she had already moved the demon-repelling orb out of the space. Chapter 291. Demon-Repelling Orb, a Defensive Treasure. It can protect the user from being corroded by demon-repelling orb. The last time Zicheng accepted a quest in the Adventurers Guild, he had exchanged it from the system to complete the quest. He didn't expect it to come in handy now. With the demon-repelling orb, Zicheng wouldn't die. Not only would she not die, but she was even more determined to pull out the demon-suppressing sword. She was spending her points too quickly. Without points, she didn't feel safe at all. She had to get the demon-suppressing sword and exchange it for points with the system shop. Yes, exchange points. Zicheng had been hesitating whether to use the demon-suppressing sword herself or sell it to the system shop. However, when she saw that she didn't have many points left, she didn't need to think about it anymore. She wasn't a sword master anyway. She had no use for a sword. She might as well sell it to the system shop for something she wanted. She was quite confident in the system shop's products. After deciding who the demon-suppressing sword would belong to, she grabbed the sword and pulled it out from the water. This sword was a sealed item. Once it was pulled out, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Zicheng did not care so much. In this world, natural selection was the survival of the fittest. Which expert did not step on countless blood and bones to climb up? What she did was not wrong. In the future, when she was strong enough, she would definitely avenge the dead. From the moment she pulled out the sword, the entire bewitching Wind Island began to shake. A surge of demon-repelling aura erupted from the Blackwater Lotus Pond. The sword hadn't been fully pulled out, but there was already so much demon-repelling aura. As expected of an ancient demon-repelling general. Even Longza Gamer had to spend a lot of effort to seal it. That woman didn't die. Seeing the Blackwater Lotus Pond, Bewitching Wind immediately understood what was going on. Zicheng. Ming-Shi's eyes darkened. This woman. Suddenly, a sword of light appeared in Ming-Shi's hand. It shone with a faint light, and one could tell at a glance that it was extraordinary. This was the weapon that Ming-Shi usually used, a legendary demon sword. Although it was only at the legendary level, its power was not inferior to a divine weapon. Otherwise, it wouldn't have qualified to be the sword of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom's prince. Ming-Shi's sword-wielding hand moved slightly, and a powerful force shot out from the sword towards a certain spot in the Black Lotus Pond, knocking a purple figure out of the water. Ah! Zicheng screamed and fell from the water to the ground. After being hit by this attack, her injuries were even more serious. Her face was as pale as a ghost, and she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Ming-Shi Sr. Zicheng did not expect Ming-Shi to be the one who had injured her. In her eyes, Ming-Shi had always been a very friendly person. No matter who it was, he was always polite and gentle. Even if he did not like people, he would not speak ill of them. He always had a faint smile on his face. But now, this gentle senior was looking at her coldly, as if he was looking at a dead person. Ming-Shi ignored her. Although the person who had drawn the sword had been sent flying, the sword was already halfway out, and the seal was still damaged. Although it was not completely broken, the seal had loosened quite a bit. Not only did the demon chi not decrease, but it also increased. The entire bewitching wind island was surrounded by the demon chi. The water essence that bewitching wind had prepared to harvest the hell-black lotus came in handy. The water essence formed a transparent protective layer that protected bewitching wind. It prevented him from being harmed and corroded by the demon chi. Ming Shi's bloodline was strong to begin with, so he wasn't afraid of the devil chi that soared into the sky. Little Seven didn't have any reaction either. She was an auspicious beast and represented the auspiciousness of heaven and earth. There was nothing in this world that could corrupt her. Zicheng had a treasure like the demon-repelling orb, so of course, she was fine. The four of them were fine, but the others were in trouble. The demon chi spread everywhere, and the first to suffer was the underground palace. Now, the entire underground palace was surrounded by the demon chi. Ajur and the other two were waiting outside the palace for Ming Shi's return because they could not think of a way to leave. Now, they were in great danger. In order to prevent them from being invaded by the demonic aura, Ajur had no choice but to release the seal of the four god seals and summon the azure flames of the scepter of summer. After releasing the seal of summer, his power increased by a tiny bit. Furthermore, the power of summer represented destruction and purification. The blue flame's power prevented the demon chi from getting close to the three of them. Ming Shi wanted to use the Hellfire Red Lotus to purify all the demon chi. But although the Hellfire Red Lotus was strong, it had a small weakness. It attacked indiscriminately. Anything that was surrounded by the demon chi would become the target of the Hellfire Red Lotus. There were so many people on Bewitching Wind Island. Although most of them were pirates, there were also fishermen and maidservants who were forced to become slaves. If he released the Hellfire, there would not be a single person left alive on the island. In desperation, Ajur could use the blue flame's power to protect the three of them from the demon chi, but he could not think of a better way to solve the problem. His power mainly focused on destruction. He wanted to use destruction to purify. If only Xiao Wu was here. Xiao Wu's power seemed to focus on purification. If Xiao Wu was here, it should work. What was Feng Wu doing when Ajur was thinking about her? She was frowning as she watched the chaos. The demon chi rolled and covered the sky. Xiaochun could not stay in Feng Wu's dantian any longer. It wanted to eat all the food. It was only because its master did not give the order that it did not act recklessly. Screams sounded on the island. The demon chi was very harmful to humans. If they were corroded by the demon chi too much, they would become a monster that was neither human nor demon. They would lose all reason and only have the will to kill. The demon beasts around Bewitching Wind Island quickly ran away. Even the water demon beast that brought Feng Wu and the others here had no choice but to run under the strong demon chi. The creatures under the sea were very unlucky today. First, they were scared by Shao Qi's explosion and ran for their lives. When the explosion finally passed, another crisis appeared. Was it easy for them to swim around like this? Was it easy? Take me to Senior Ming Shi, Feng Wu said to Xiaochun. She had a feeling that Senior Ming Shi and the others must be at the source of the demon chi. Xiaochun immediately flew out of Feng Wu's dantian and led the way. All the demon chi was purified when it came into contact with Xiaochun. Because of this, the place Xiaochun flew past became a rare pure land. Many people who were corroded by the demon chi wanted to get close to Feng Wu and Xiaochun. Chapter 292. Unfortunately, the demonic chi was not easy to deal with. After Xiaochun and Feng Wu left, the areas that had been purified were immediately filled with new demonic chi. Only the despairing humans were left crying in the demonic chi. Of course, there was more to the underground palace than the one that Zicheng had asked the treasure-hunting mouse to dig. As the human who was guarding the seal, Yao Feng naturally knew about a secret tunnel that led to the underground palace that no one else knew about. Only the Yao Feng of each generation knew where the tunnel was. Even the two vice-captains did not know about it. The tunnel that the treasure-hunting mouse dug had been blocked by Ming Shi, but the tunnel that Yao Feng knew about was still there. In the past, it would have been difficult to find out where the secret passageway was from Yao Feng. But now, Xiao Chun didn't need to ask Yao Feng to figure it out. Demonic qi kept seeping out of the tunnel, so it was much easier to find it. Xiao Chun brought Feng Wu to the first floor of the underground palace. The first floor of the underground palace had been filled with demonic qi. The entire tunnel was dark, and they could not even see the path clearly. There were countless pirates lying on the ground. They were all groaning in pain as the demonic qi invaded their bodies. The eruption of the devil qi only lasted for a moment. The people in the basement were the ones who suffered the most. Due to the limitations of the space here, they were tortured by the devil qi to the point that they couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Feng Wu followed Xiao Chun to a secret stone room. There was nothing else in the room except for a few stone coffins. The room was where Yao Feng's bones were buried. Every generation of Yao Feng would be moved into the room after they died. There were exactly 5 stone coffins in the room, and each of them had the same name engraved on them. The only difference was that the prefixes used were different. For example, the first generation Yao Feng, the second generation Yao Feng, the third generation Yao Feng, and so on until the 5th generation Yao Feng. At this moment, first generation Evil Wind's sarcophagus had obviously been moved by someone. There was actually a long flight of stairs under the sarcophagus. There was no need to think about the person who moved the sarcophagus. It could only be first generation Evil Wind. He must have moved it himself when he went down to the underground palace. This stone room was clearly a forbidden area of Bewitching Wind Island. Even the 2 vice commanders weren't qualified to enter this place. The person in charge of guarding this place had long since been corroded by the demon qi and collapsed to the ground. This was why Feng Wu had been able to enter this place so easily. The devilish qi was spreading up from the bottom of the stone stairs. Feng Wu paused for a moment, then led Xiao Chun down the stone stairs without any hesitation. While Feng Wu was rushing towards the underground palace, Ming Shi was not idle either. He was trying his best to repair the seal. The power of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom's bloodline was the best when it came to seals and barriers. Ming Shi stepped on the water and approached the half-drawn suppressing demon sword. He formed a hand seal and forcefully sent the seal into the suppressing demon sword. The suppressing demon sword shook violently a few times, then slowly sank down. The devilish qi that was surging wildly was becoming smaller and smaller. Ming Shi's hands did not stop moving. He kept using the power of the seal to repair it. Just as the seal was about to be completed, something happened. The demon sword shook even more violently, then began to move up inch by inch. Ming Shi's face changed. He began to increase the output of his demonic qi. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was that he had to stop the demon general from being born. Otherwise, with the demon general's power, there would be a catastrophe. Ming Shi's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. His hands were shaking, but he could not stop the sword from moving up inch by inch. Although Ming Shi's efforts had slowed down the speed of the sword, it was still moving up. It did not look like it was going to stop at all. Yao Feng hated Zicheng to death. It was all because of that B***tch. If it wasn't for her, things would not have turned out this way. Little Seven was worried about her master. She did not have time to deal with this enemy of hers. Zicheng took out a few life potions and drank them. Finally, the wounds on her body did not hurt as much. Her face also regained some color. She did not think things would be so bad. She felt that the suppressing demon sword was her destiny. She felt that the suppressing demon sword was destined to be hers. Why did things turn out this way? The battle between Ming Shi and the demon general was coming to an end. Even if Ming Shi tried his best, he could not stop the demon general from being born. The suppressing demon sword suddenly rose from the Black Lotus Pond. Then, a black-haired, black-clothed handsome man slowly appeared from the Black Lotus Pond. Ming Shi and Little Seven, along with Yao Feng, took a few big steps back. This person was very, very dangerous. The black-haired, black-clothed man's eyes were red. When he looked at them, it was as if he was looking into hell and an endless sea of blood. The man's face was very handsome. The ancient devils were the first batch of devils to be born in the devil world. Their bodies and faces were perfect. They were very strong. Every one of them had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. They were like God's spirits. They were really favored by the heavens. Human, die. The man said those words coldly. He waved his hand, and a huge amount of demonic power went towards Ming-Shi and Little Seven. The man did not move. His movements were very gentle. It was like he was just waving his hand. The power was so strong that Ming-Shi could not fight back. Ming-Shi used his sword to block the demonic power. He, his pet, and Yao Feng were all knocked out of the room where the demon general was sealed. Ah! Yao Feng screamed. She was sent flying to the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was even paler. In order to repair the seal, Ming-Shi had used most of her demonic power. In order to block the attack, she had used up the rest of her demonic power. Her injuries were much worse than Yao Feng's. Jojo! Little Seven cried out anxiously. He spread his wings and a gentle ball of light surrounded the man and the pet. Within the ball of light, Ming-Shi's body was recovering quickly. Even his depleted mana was gradually recovering. That was the benefit of the symbiotic contract. A person and a pet could heal each other. Although they could not heal all of their wounds, they could heal at least 50% of their wounds. Zicheng could only lie on the ground and watch all this happen. She did not expect the thing under the seal to be so sick. She did not know if it was because Zicheng's heroine halo was too strong, but the demon general did not attack her. It let her sit on the side and watch. The demon general ignored Zicheng, but it did not ignore Ming-Shi and the others. Ming-Shi had just recovered a little. The demon general looked at Ming-Shi and the others coldly. It was like it was looking at some lowly ants. Chapter 293. He extended a hand that was so perfect that it looked as if it had been carved from white jade and flicked it toward Ming-Shi and the others. A black ball of light that was about the size of a basketball shot toward them with a flash of red lightning. The black ball of light contained a terrifying destructive power. Ming-Shi knew that he would not be able to block such a powerful attack even if he was at his peak. It was no wonder that he was the ancient devil general. He was indeed powerful. He had just broken out of the seal, but he already had the power to kill Lin Fan easily. Although Ming-Shi knew that he could not dodge it, he would not give up without trying. He raised his sword and stared at the black ball of light. Jiao Jiao! Little Seven flapped her wings and flew in front of Ming-Shi. She spat out a 7-colored flame from her mouth. Although the flame was not big, it contained a shocking amount of energy. This was the 7-colored phoenix's spiritual fire, the 7-colored glazed flame. The 7-colored glazed flame was the spiritual fire that only 7-colored phoenixes possessed. It was extremely powerful. Little Seven was still a child to the phoenixes. The appearance of a young girl in the beginning was just a disguise for the sake of face. With her age, although the power of her flames was not strong enough to fight against the ancient demon generals, it was not weak to the point that she did not have any fighting power. In order to protect her master, Little Seven used her strongest attack, which was her spiritual fire. The 7-colored glazed flame and the black ball of light met in the air. The two types of energy collided and a huge explosion shook the entire underground palace. The ground of the underground palace began to shake as if an earthquake had occurred. Ming-Shi tried to protect Little Seven and the others with the power of the sword in his hand. Unfortunately, he did not succeed. He had used up too much energy. If he was in the outside world, he could use the power of the moon to heal himself and recover his mana quickly. Unfortunately, he was underground and could not feel the power of the moon. He could not recover on his own. The two of them and the pet were sent flying again. This time, they were less injured than before. As the black ball of light did not hit them directly, although Ming-Shi and the others were still affected by the explosion, they were not fatally injured. Cough, cough. Yao Feng spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He felt as if his internal organs were about to shift. He did not think that he would be left behind. It was all thanks to Lord Phoenix blocking the attack. Otherwise, Lord Phoenix and the others might still have a chance to survive, but he, Yao Feng, might have died here. Ming Shi supported himself with his sword and stood up. His face was full of vigilance as he stared at the black-clothed man's next move. What's going on? Where did the two of them come from? Ajur had already guessed that something must have happened in the palace when he saw the demonic qi leaking out. Although he believed in Ming Shi's strength, Ming Shi had Xiao Qi's protection. No matter how he thought about it, it was impossible for him to not be Zicheng's opponent. Although he knew very well that Ming Shi was not in any danger, he still felt uneasy. Especially as the devil qi became more and more serious, the uneasiness in his heart became even more obvious. In the end, Ajur still could not let go of the uneasiness in his heart. He ignored Feng Yanran and O'Brien's persuasion and insisted on entering the palace to check out the situation. Feng Yanran also felt a chill down her spine. She felt that there was great danger in the palace. No matter what, she did not want to go in. Feng Yanran did not want to go in. She also did not want to see Ajur go in. Among the three of them, the only one who could stop the demonic qi was Ajur. If Ajur left, she did not know what she and O'Brien would do. Fortunately, Ajur did not want to leave them alone. He took out 2 red lotuses. The lotuses were very small. They were only the size of a baby's palm. There was a trace of fire in the center of the flowers. This trace of fire was a trace of power left on it by the summer scepter, Zhong Yan. With the protection of this trace of power, Feng Yanran and Ajur's safety was guaranteed. They did not continue to persuade Ajur to stay. After getting rid of the 2 burdens, Ajur rushed into the palace without stopping. A huge explosion gave him a fright. He didn't dare to stop for even half a step and increased his speed. Finally, he caught up. At this moment, Ajur was standing in front of Ming Shi. He looked at Yao Feng and then at the demon general, who was obviously not to be trifled with. His eyes were filled with doubt and caution. Now is not the time to talk about this. Stop him. Don't let him leave here. I need some time to recover. Help me stall him. Seeing the helper come in, Ming Shi did not even have the time to ask him why he was still in the underground palace. With Ajur's help, Ming Shi could finally recover a little. Although he did not know what had happened, Ming Shi was right. Now was not the time to ask about this. The black-haired man was surrounded by demonic qi. It was obvious that he was not simple. He was surrounded by murderous qi. It was obvious that he was a demon who killed people like flies. Okay. Ajur agreed without hesitation. The energy of the 4 god seals. The demon general's red eyes flashed with something, but it was immediately replaced by murderous qi. Who are you? Ajur did not dare to be careless. He looked at the man cautiously. Heir of the 4 god seals, die. Ajur's appearance did not determine whether he could beat the demon general. At least he did a good job of pulling the demon general and bought Ming Shi precious time to recover. While Ajur was dealing with the demon general, Ming Shi quickly took out a health potion from his space ring to recover his injuries and mana. Ajur's identity as the heir of the 4 god seals had been exposed. It seemed to have attracted the demon general's attention. The demon general did not hold back. The demonic qi around him turned into 2 dragons and attacked Ajur. The dragons were formed by demonic qi. They were completely black. Only their eyes were red. They looked exactly the same as the demon general. Ajur used the Imperial Sky technique to dodge the attack of one of the dragons. Xiao Qi turned into a 10-meter-long phoenix and fought with a black dragon. Neither side was giving way. The roar of the dragon and the cry of the phoenix filled the entire space. Although the black dragon was formed by demonic qi, it had murderous intent. It was not easy to deal with it. Xiao Qi used all her strength to fight the black dragon to a standstill. On the other hand, Ajur was relying on the Summer Scepter's ash flame. Otherwise, with just Ajur's strength, he would have been torn to shreds by the dragons. The two dragons fought fiercely with Ajur and Shao Qi. The demon general just stood at the side and watched. The murderous intent in his eyes did not lessen. He did not have any intention to step forward. It gave people the feeling that he was playing with a few stupid mice. Ming Shi drank the potion and ate a spirit fruit that Feng Wu gave him. His injuries were mostly healed. His mana was also fully recovered. Chapter 294. The Devil General took a deep look at Ming Shi and waved his hand again. The black ball of light that was exactly the same as the last time appeared again and mercilessly shot towards Ming Shi. Ming Shi channeled his demonic power and swung his sword at the ball of light. He used the saint-level sword technique and the sword intent with the strongest offensive power among the several sword intents he had comprehended. The sword chi and the black ball of light collided. This time, there was an explosion. Ming Shi used his sword to block the explosion. The entire palace shook again. Not only that, but even Evil Wind Island shook violently. The people on the island who were still fighting against the demon aura felt their fear increase by several levels. You are not bad. Descendant of God's blood. You are very talented. Unfortunately, you will die. The demon general's voice was cold and stiff. He was like an emotionless machine. It seemed that only demon aura and murderous aura could be felt from him. No other emotions could be found from him. After the demon general said those words coldly, his hair suddenly changed. The black hair that was growing on the demon general's head suddenly seemed to break in the middle and fly away from his body. His hair was very long, longer than many women's. It was unknown if it was because he had not taken care of it for thousands of years, but his hair was almost touching the ground. Because his hair had broken off on its own, his originally long hair had become waist-length hair. Even so, his hair seemed to be constantly growing. Soon, the hair that had flown away from his body grew back to its original length and stayed quietly on his back. On the other hand, Ming Shi was in trouble. Those severed hairs were not simple at all. They danced in the air, and tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of black hairs surrounded Ming Shi. Ming Shi looked at the dense hair and saw that each strand of hair was attached to a powerful demon aura. The demon aura was like its owner, full of murderous aura. He held his sword with one hand and looked at the hair that was attacking him. Finally, the two met. The black hair carried murderous aura and attacked Ming Shi. Ming Shi swung his sword and cut the hair that was attacking him into ashes. If you thought the demon general's hair was so easy to deal with, you were wrong. The gray hair that had been turned into ashes actually revived in the air. They formed new strands of hair and flew towards Ming Shi again. Ming Shi kept attacking with his sword. Unfortunately, the hair seemed to have an immortal body. No matter how he attacked, he could not kill it. He even used a saint-level skill twice, but it was still useless. Ming Shi's eyes darkened. He did not hold his sword. Suddenly, an egg-sized flame appeared in his hand. The flame was seven-colored. It was Little Seven's life spirit fire, the seven-colored glass flame. Because of the symbiotic contract, Ming Shi could also summon the rainbow-glazed flame to fight for him. He released the rainbow-glazed flame, and the rainbow-glazed flame immediately had a certain suppressive effect on the strands of hair that were filled with magic power. Those strands of hair that could constantly regenerate finally stopped regenerating, and his attack finally had an effect. Ming Shi heaved a sigh of relief. It was good as long as it was effective. He was most afraid that he could not find a way to deal with the strands of hair. Just as Ming Shi and the other two were fighting the demon general, another person entered the underground palace. The person who came was none other than the Feng Wu girl. After going through a long flight of stairs, she finally arrived at the place where the demon aura gathered. Feng Wu came down from the passage of the demon aura. When she came down, she went straight to a room in the palace. This room was right next to the room where the demon general was sealed. One could imagine that the moment Feng Wu stepped into the room, she had already noticed the battle outside. She and Xiaochun walked a few steps out of the room. As expected, she saw the person she was looking for in the courtyard. Senior Ming Shi. Feng Wu's eyes lit up when she saw Ming Shi. Xiao Wu. Ming Shi was distracted by her voice. He did not expect to see someone who was not supposed to be here. Xiao Wu. Ajur exclaimed in surprise. He had been thinking about how great it would be if Xiao Wu was here. He did not expect to see Xiao Wu here. Quick! Quick! Xiao Wu! Use your power to purify the demon aura here. Ajur's power was too destructive. A small island like this with so many living creatures was the worst place for him to attack. Once he went all out, the island might even sink. Ming Shi's situation was similar. Although Ming Shi was strong, he could only unleash his full power in a place where the moon could shine. In such a dark place, Ming Shi was at a disadvantage. If it was not for the fact that Ming Shi could not unleash his full power, he would not have been suppressed to this extent. Both of their strongest combatants had their combat power reduced by half due to various reasons. How could Ajur not be excited when he saw Feng Wu who had the power to purify under such circumstances? Xiaochun, go. Feng Wu nodded at Ajur, then turned her head and said to Xiaochun. Hearing Feng Wu's words, Pure Sword knew that she wanted him to eat as much as he could. He happily circled around Feng Wu, then his whole sword emitted a strong silver light and flew towards the black demon aura. The demon aura in the surroundings dissipated after Xiaochun passed through it. In less than 3 minutes, the entire underground palace was cleaned up. Only the Black Lotus Pond and the Demon General were left to be taken care of. Xiaochun flew into the room where the Demon General was sealed. He ignored Zicheng who was lying on the ground and ignored him. He flew into the Black Lotus Pond. When Pure Sword entered the Black Lotus Pond, the demon aura in the pond immediately bubbled. Then the color of the pond became lighter and lighter, until the pond turned back into a spirit pond. Only then did Pure Sword fly out with satisfaction. At this time, Feng Wu boldly stood in front of the Demon General and carefully observed the person who had an aura that she disliked. Xiao Wu, stay away. This person is a Demon General. He's very dangerous. When Ming Shi saw Feng Wu fearlessly approaching the Demon General, he was so scared that he almost lost control of his defense and was hit by the hair. Are you sick? Feng Wu tilted her head and carefully observed the Demon General for a full 3 minutes before saying. When she said that, Ajur and Ming Shi were so shocked that they almost fell over. Even Yao Feng, who had been ignored by the Demon General, coughed up another mouthful of blood when he heard Feng Wu's words. Where did this girl come from? She was so fearless that she dared to talk nonsense in front of the Demon General. It was probably because there was a god's child in front of him, an inheritor of the 4 god seals. Also, there was the 7-colored phoenix Xiao Qi. Among the 3 of them, one was a true descendant of a god, one was an inheritor of the god seals, and one was a famous mythical beast. They were all related to God. Chapter 295. Perhaps it was because the 3 of them were too powerful, but the Demon General had lost interest in the other weak humans. Yao Feng and Zicheng had become bystanders. Before Ming Shi and Ajur died, their lives would not be in any danger. Feng Wu's appearance did not attract the Demon General's attention. Or rather, it was Xiaochun who attracted the Demon General's attention. Although the sword's aura was not strong, the Demon General felt an unprecedented sense of danger. When Xiaochun purified the Demon Qi, the Demon General did not move. When Xiaochun purified the Black Lotus Pond, he still did not move. He was observing and recalling. In his distant memory, he seemed to have seen this sword before. Where was it? Where exactly was it? He held his head in pain. He seemed to have forgotten a very important memory. A memory related to this sword. What was it? Why did this sword appear in his memory? Because the Demon General was immersed in his memories. An expression that he had never seen before appeared on his face. He did not know if it was an illusion, but the red in his eyes seemed to have faded. What's going on? Yao Feng was bewildered. What happened to this Demon General? Wasn't he still acting almighty just a moment ago? Why did he seem to be in pain now? Ming Shi and Ajur were also confused. They also did not understand what was happening to the demon general. Feng Wu only asked him if he was sick. Then he became like this. He hugged her and stood there in pain. Was this question so difficult to answer? After Xiaochun purified the Black Lotus Pond, he ate the 2 black dragons formed by the demon Qi and Ming Shi's hair. After purifying them, he spat out pure mana. The black dragons and the troublesome hair disappeared. Ming Shi and Ajur rushed to Feng Wu's side at the same time. They protected the silly girl behind them. Senior Ming Shi, what do you think happened to him? Ajur couldn't figure it out himself, so he could only ask Ming Shi. No matter what, Ming Shi was still a senior. As a senior, he naturally had the obligation to answer his juniors' questions. However, even though Ajur had forgotten about it, Ming Shi couldn't figure out what was going on. I don't know either. Everyone, be careful. There's something wrong with him. Ming Shi looked at the infernal general with a serious expression. Ajur scratched his head, unable to find the words to describe the feeling. I found it strange just now. This demon general seems to be acting a little. I can't put my finger on it. It's just a strange feeling. It's as if he's missing something. Just now, in order to fight the devil general, he didn't think too much about it. Now that he was free, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. His 7 emotions and 6 desires seemed to have been sealed. Only his killing intent is left. Of course you'd find it strange, Ming Shi said calmly. Ajur and Yao Feng were shocked. Could it be Lord Longzi Gamma? Yao Feng was shocked. In Yao Feng's imagination, Longzi Gamma was the strongest person who could seal a powerful demon general. He was the only one who could do such a thing. However, Yao Feng couldn't figure out why Lord Longzi Gamma would do such a thing. But it didn't matter. After all, Lord Longzi Gamma was always right. This guy was definitely a die-hard fan of Longzi Gamma. Ming Shi shook his head. It can't be Lord Longzi Gamma. He has no reason to do so. Longzi Gamma could say that he sealed the demon general to protect world peace. Why would he seal the demon general's 7 emotions and 6 desires and 6 desires? No matter how he thought about it, it couldn't be Longzi Gamma's doing. Of course, anyone with a brain wouldn't pin this on Longzi Gamma. Could it be the demon ancestor? Ajur guessed that it couldn't be Longzi Gamma. Then, the only other person he could think of who was stronger than the demon general and had a reason to harm others without benefiting himself was the legendary demon ancestor. Yes, it must be. The demon ancestor must have sealed the 7 emotions and 6 desires in order to control his subordinates to fight for him. Yes, that must be it. Yao Feng exclaimed in realization. Ming Shi couldn't figure out who did it either. However, there were very few people who could do it. At least, he didn't think that there were any human experts in the human world who could do it. Can you undo his seal? Ajur asked Ming Shi. You want to release his 7 emotions? Don't do it. What if he becomes stronger after releasing his 7 emotions? Yao Feng shook his head in fear. He didn't dare to take the risk. I can't do it. The person who sealed his 7 emotions is too strong. Only my father can do it. Ming Shi shook his head. After Xiaochun finished eating all the devil qi, he started thinking about the demon general who had been hugging his head. This big guy looked so dangerous and delicious. Xiaochun wanted to go closer, but he didn't dare. This person gave him a dangerous feeling. No one had ever made him feel this way before. However, was he really not going to eat it? He felt that if he ate this big guy, he would become stronger. In the end, Xiaochun couldn't resist the temptation of food. The sword flew up and rushed towards the demon general's head. Anyway, Master had given him permission to eat it. It would be a waste if he didn't eat it. At most, he could run if there was danger. Xiaochun thought and rushed towards the demon general without hesitation. The pure sword flew towards the demon general's head with white sword flowers. The demon general seemed to sense danger. He looked up coldly and opened his hand to block Xiaochun a meter away. He couldn't go any further. Although he couldn't go any further, Xiaochun started using his own power to eat the devil qi. It was Xiaochun's instinct to purify all the filth in the world. If it wasn't for Fengwu, Xiaochun would have gone to the devil world to look for food. The pure sword's light became brighter and brighter. The battle with the pure sword was more intense than the battle between Ming Shi and Ajur combined. The devil qi on the demon general's body became more and more turbulent. The devil qi on his body was constantly being purified by Xiaochun. As the devil qi was being purified, the demon general's red eyes became lighter. While Xiaochun was purifying the devil qi, he didn't feel good. The demon general was too strong. Xiaochun tried to purify the devil qi, but the devil qi on the demon general's body was too high level. It wasn't something that Xiaochun could easily purify. Xiaochun's sword became darker and darker. It seemed to have been damaged. Fengwu, who was connected to Xiaochun's mind, felt Xiaochun's weakness. She immediately called Xiaochun back. Xiaochun weakly flew back to Fengwu's side. It seemed to be a little embarrassed. The entire sword was dispirited. Chapter 296. This sword is amazing. It's so human-like. Yao Feng looked at Fengwu and Xiaochun enviously. He wondered when he would be able to use such a good weapon. Fortunately, he had already obtained the Hell's Black Lotus. With the Hell's Black Lotus, the master would probably help him to refine it. By then, Yao Feng Island would have a powerful weapon. Although Yao Feng's sword was good and he could use it easily, he believed that no one would reject the temptation of having another holy weapon. No one was in the mood to care about Yao Feng's fantasies. After the pure sword was summoned back, the red light in the demon general's eyes gradually disappeared. Perhaps it was because some of his demonic nature had been purified. The murderous aura on the demon general's body gradually disappeared. At this moment, images appeared in the demon general's mind. Mia, promise me that you will protect the king forever. Be his sword and eliminate all enemies for the king, okay? Sister, the king doesn't even love you. Why are you doing this for him? Mia, you don't understand. I can betray the whole world for the person I love. If you still consider me as your sister, promise me. Sister, don't you know what the king wants to do? He wants to attack the human world and turn it into the new demon world. Have you ever thought about what would happen if the king really did that? It wasn't easy for the three realms to regain peace. I really don't want to see the tragedy from 10,000 years ago repeat itself. Mia, when did you become so soft-hearted? It's an honor for the humans to sacrifice themselves for the new demon world. Sister, I'm sorry that I can't promise you. I just want to find a place to live in seclusion. I don't want to get involved in the conflicts in the demon world. Don't worry, I won't side with the new demon king and go against the king. No, you can't leave. We are the only ones left among the 12 demon generals. The others have already sided with that person. You are the strongest of the 12 demon generals. If you leave, what will happen to the king? I won't allow you to leave. Cough, cough. Sister, your injuries are too serious. Don't talk anymore. It's more important for you to recover. No, I know that I don't have much time left. You must promise me that you will protect the king and be his sword. No. Sister, you'll be fine. I'll find the magic potion to cure you. It's useless. No one can save me. I beg you with my life. Promise me that you'll protect the king forever. All right, I promise you, I will protect the king. Thank you, you're really my good little brother. Sister, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I'm just too soft-hearted. In order to make you the strongest weapon in the king's hands, I don't need to be soft-hearted and kind. Mia, rest assured and be the sword in the king's hand. Ah. The demon general screamed crazily. His voice was filled with pain and sorrow. He remembered. He remembered those memories that had been lost for 1,000 years. Destroy. Why are you doing this to me? I'm your younger brother. Why? Why? He looked up to the sky and howled, his eyes filled with pain and despair. She had been plotted against by her sister, who had grown up with her for tens of thousands of years, all for the sake of her beloved man's return to the throne. Did she not have a place for him, her younger brother, in her heart? Because of his howl, the entire underground palace began to shake. The palace began to collapse, and there was a tsunami on the sea. The air became oppressive. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Waves rolled and sprayed into the sky. Huge waves that were hundreds of meters tall began to hit Demon Wind Island. The people on the island had just escaped death from the demon Chi, but now they were greeted with another disaster. Ah! Help! I don't want to die. Help me, I'm going to be washed away. Hold on to me, I beg you to hold on to me. Why is this happening? What's going on? Originally, the pirates had already recovered their consciousness after being purified by the pure sword. Who would have thought that just as they were about to catch their breath, they would be attacked by a huge wave? Many pirates and slaves who were caught on the island were swept away by the waves without any preparation. The entire Evil Wind Island began to sink. There was a storm, a tsunami, and huge waves. The helpless cries of the creatures on the sea seemed to be drowned out by the sound of thunder, wind, rain, and waves. In the underground palace, the ground began to crack. Countless amounts of seawater rushed into the palace. Soon, half of the underground palace was submerged. Leave this place! Ming Shi roared. It's too late! Ajur shouted. Yes, it was too late. The ground continued to crack. More and more seawater rushed in. Soon, the entire underground palace was submerged. After the initial painful roar, the demon general calmed down. However, he did not stop all of this. He stood there coldly, and no one knew what he was thinking. Under the water, evil wind with the essence of water was the easiest. With the protection of the essence of water, there was no difference whether he was in the water or on the ground. The rainbow phoenix was not a water-type magical beast. It could not fight in the water. The moment the water rushed in, Little Seven, the little guy, cleverly returned to the spirit world. The spirit world was the paradise of all magical beasts. There were many powerful magical beasts living there. There were precious ancient magical beasts, and countless powerful magical beasts. There were also sacred beasts and divine beasts living there. Any magical beast that came out of the spirit world could live in the spirit world without being summoned by humans. Only when summoned by their masters would they come out of the spirit world to fight. The rainbow phoenix was originally a divine beast that lived in the spirit world. A noble divine beast would not live in the human world. As long as it wanted to return to the spirit world, it could go back at any time through the spirit world passage. Little Seven smoothly returned to the spirit world. However, the others could not leave as they wished. It was impossible for them to use a spatial scroll to leave in the current situation. Fengwu used her Do Qi to create a water barrier for herself. There was no danger for the time being. Fengwu, who was surrounded by water, was not happy. At this moment, the water flow in the underground palace became more and more rapid. Many stone walls were broken through. More than half of the underground palace had already collapsed. The powerful water flow washed them all out of the underground palace. Ming Shi and the others were lucky enough to be washed into the sea from a stone wall that was broken through. The sea was not peaceful. The fish were fleeing in all directions. The water-type magical beasts were crying out in alarm. The panicked cries of magical beasts could be heard in the water. The volcano in Haiti had erupted. The fishing villages living in the area of Yanhai were affected by the torrential rain. At this moment, on top of a cliff, there was a man with black hair and black eyes. His eyes were filled with gentleness and love. The man looked at the raging storm in the sea. His gentle eyes revealed a trace of helplessness. The man stretched out a white arm. Then, he slightly raised his arm and flicked his slender finger. At the same time, a pure and holy golden ball of light flew out of his hand like a lightning bolt. The ball of light flew forward along the sea until it could no longer be seen. Chapter 297. Since you don't want to see people suffer, why don't you stop the birth of the first demon general, Mie? Not far from the black-haired man, a man in white appeared. The man's face was as handsome as an immortal's. His long black hair and white ancient robes made him look like an immortal who had just walked out of a painting. However, upon closer inspection, the man's figure was somewhat ethereal, as if he wasn't real. This is the decision of the world's consciousness. No one can change it. The only person who can change all of this is the person favored by the world's consciousness. And Shengyuan calmly turned around. Bai Lianfeng gently shook her head. As the dean of the Notre Dame du Starlight, are you sure you don't want to stop it? If you don't stop it, I'm afraid many people in the entire sea world will die because of it. And Shengyuan's expression was still compassionate, but he still shook his head. Their fates can't be changed by me. You should know that the reason I was able to stay in the human world was because I promised the upper realm that I wouldn't interfere too much with the human world's affairs. I also couldn't break the established trajectory. This time, the one who's making a move is the head of the 12 demon generals, Mie. Are you sure those little guys in your school can change all of this? Bai Lianfeng was very confident in her little disciple, but she really didn't have much confidence in the others. Don't forget that your precious disciple is among those little guys, isn't he? And Shengyuan said with a half-smile. They're all your students. Don't forget that you're the dean of the Notre Dame du Starlight. Bai Lianfeng also smiled. At this time, somewhere on Three Leaf Island, Mo Gue was holding Feng Yi and looking at the storm outside the island. Although Three Leaf Island wasn't as badly affected as Yaofeng Island, it wasn't easy either. The heavy rain and strong winds forced the fishermen living by the sea to hide in the mountains. Most of the houses by the sea were submerged, and the people on the island were in a miserable state. What do we do? Senior Ming Shi and the others will be fine, right? It's too dangerous in such a storm. Mo Gue was worried and paced around the cave. Originally, they were staying in a fisherman's house, but then there was a sudden flash of lightning and thunder, and they had to find a cave to take shelter from the rain. The fishermen also scattered and hid in other caves. Before the storm stopped, everyone could only hide inside. O'Brien, my O'Brien will be fine, right? That bitch Feng Yanran, if anything happens to O'Brien, I will definitely kill her. Mildy gritted her teeth and said with a face full of resentment. I hope everyone is safe. Riot stood to the side and prayed to the gods in the sky. Seeing that Mildy was still thinking about her fiancé at this time, Mo Gue felt a belly full of anger that needed to be vented. At a time like this, you're still thinking about that O'Brien of yours. If it weren't for your pleading, Senior Ming Shi and Xiao Wu wouldn't have gone out to look for him. If anything happens to them, I won't let you two jinx off. Mo Gue was really fed up with this woman. Every day, she was worried about her fiancé and didn't mention anything about Senior Ming Shi and the others. She was so selfish that it made people's hair stand on end. Mildy's face turned red and she said unhappily, How can you blame me and O'Brien? If you want to blame someone, you should blame Feng Yanran. If she didn't seduce O'Brien to help her, he wouldn't have left the team without permission. Leaving the team without permission was not a small matter. Even if they returned to school, Ming Shi only needed to report that Feng Yanran and O'Brien left the team without permission, and it would be difficult for them to form a team in the future. No team needed such a troublemaker who couldn't be disciplined. She originally wanted to beg senior brother Qin Shi not to report O'Brien's name. This time, the blame should be shouldered by that bitch Feng Yanran. No matter what, she couldn't let others put the blame on O'Brien. Your words are too ridiculous. Feng Yanran didn't point a sword at him. He decided to leave on his own. If he was determined not to leave with Feng Yanran, could Feng Yanran use force to force him to leave? Although he didn't like Feng Yanran, he also didn't like Mildy. Although this woman didn't have anything to do with other aspects, as long as it was something related to her fiancé, she would become unreasonable. In her eyes, her fiancé was always right. Even if he was wrong, it was someone else's fault. Mo Gue couldn't stand her for a long time. This damned weather made people feel even worse, and his tolerance was greatly reduced. You're speaking up for Feng Yenran. Could it be that you were also seduced by her? Mildy couldn't stand it when someone spoke up for Feng Yenran. Unreasonable. Emogue hugged Xiao Yi and dodged to the side, too lazy to deal with this crazy woman. However, the three adults didn't notice that Feng Ye's expression was a bit strange. Mommy, mommy, I want mommy. I feel disgusted outside, I want mommy to hug and kiss, I don't like it, I don't like it, it smells bad, it's noisy, Xiao Yi doesn't like it. The little thing struggled and waved his little hand. No one noticed that when Xiao Yi waved his little hand, a powerful force was born in his hand. Bao Bao doesn't like the dark, he wants the light. Bao Bao doesn't like water falling from the sky, rain. Bao Bao doesn't like the noise outside, waves, wind, rain, thunder and lightning. Xiao Yi angrily threw out the energy in his hand. The three people in the cave, two of them were fuming with anger, and one of them was trying to stop the fight. None of them noticed the little thing's actions. While the three of them were unaware, a small ball of light flew out from the Three Leaves Island, and finally flew to the vicinity of Evil Wind Island. The ball of light began to glow, and the light became brighter and brighter. In the end, it turned into a pillar of light that pierced through the clouds and the sea. The volcano at the bottom of the sea calmed down, and the violent winds and tsunamis stopped. The rain gradually lessened until it disappeared. The dark clouds in the sky disappeared, and the sun that was hiding behind the dark clouds finally showed its face. The sea was calm, and everything was glowing with vitality. If it wasn't for Evil Wind Island, which had sunk into the sea, reminding everyone that the terrible disaster just now wasn't a dream, everyone would have thought that they were just having a nightmare. Strange. Why did it suddenly clear up? Emogue looked at the rainbow in the sky in surprise. What happened? Mildy was also puzzled. Finally, the rain stopped. Riot finally let out a sigh of relief. Now that the rain stopped, they probably wouldn't quarrel anymore. Only Feng Yi opened his little mouth and yawned. He blinked his little mouth and closed his eyes, falling asleep. Bao Bao is so tired, I want to sleep. No one knew the story of how Feng Yi saved the world. After the storm, the fishermen happily prepared to move back to their small homes. Most of the pirates escaped death and floated on the sea. Chapter 298. The two deputy commanders took out a few ships of various sizes from their space rings and allowed the pirates and slaves to board them. They needed to go to another base on Evil Wind Island to settle down. As for Feng Wu and the rest, the situation was a little unexpected and strange. Less than a minute after the storm stopped, a large portal suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, a group of demon soldiers appeared. They were wearing armor and had different hair colors. Seeing this group of demons, Evil Wind felt as if he was facing a great enemy. He was afraid that the demon general's helpers had arrived. However, Ming Shi and Ajur seemed to have thought of something. They heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed. Evil Wind was confused. Weren't humans and the demons enemies? Why did they look like they were in the demon realm? Not only were they not worried, but they also looked nonchalant. This was definitely not normal. Had they been beaten silly? However, what happened next proved that Evil Wind was the one who had lost his mind. Master Mie, the Demon King has ordered us to bring you back to the demon realm. Two demons dressed differently from the rest of the demon soldiers walked out. It was obvious at a glance that these two demons were the leaders of this demon troop. The Demon King? He won't let me go. Mie looked up and glanced at the group of demon soldiers. The two demons exchanged glances and said, "Master, you misunderstood. The Demon King said that you had no choice in what happened back then. The Demon King has always kept your position as the first demon general. Once you have redeemed yourself, you can return to your former glory." Mie smiled and did not say anything. "Let's go. It's good to go back to the demon realm. However, before I leave, I want to know how the king is doing." The two demon soldiers knew that the king he was talking about was not the current demon king, but the former demon king. He was now known as the demon ancestor in the demon realm. They did not underestimate the former demon king, who was now the demon ancestor. Master Mie, the demon ancestor's body has been destroyed. His soul is now sealed. The two demon soldiers did not hide anything. Mie nodded. It was much better than he thought. At least he was still alive. Little girl, come here. At this moment, Mie suddenly turned to look at Feng Wu. There was a look of surprise and confusion in his eyes. Feng Wu felt that he had no ill intentions and walked straight over. Ming Shi and Ajur did not stop her. If a dignified demon general wanted to kill someone, she could just do it directly. There was no need to trick people and then kill them. Where did you get your sword? After retrieving all of his memories, he already knew the origin of the sword, but why was it in the hands of a little human girl? Are you talking about Xiaochun? Feng Wu blinked. Xiaochun is my friend. He's been living in the mountains behind my house. Later, I pulled him out. Master said that if I could pull Xiaochun out, Xiaochun would be mine. However, the home she spoke of was not the Feng family, but Mount Yuehua. So that's how it is. I didn't expect there to be another person in this world who can use this sword, and it's even a human. Mie nodded and did not say anything else. If he knew more, this little human girl would not know. Let's go back to the demonic world. Mie turned and looked at the two demon soldiers. He stretched out his hands. Put on the demon binding bracelet. The demon king has ordered that as long as you are willing to return to the demonic world, the demon binding bracelet will not be used. Let's go. Mie was the first to enter the demonic world, followed by a string of demon soldiers. When all the demon soldiers and demon generals had disappeared, the portal in the sky disappeared. That scared me to death. I have never seen so many demons in my life. Yao Feng gasped as he stood on the surface of the sea. The others who were also standing on the sea did not say much. Feng Wu was never a curious child, and she did not even think of asking what was going on. Can the two of you tell me what's going on? How did the demonic soldiers come about? Why aren't the demon soldiers attacking us? Yao Feng had a lot of questions to ask. He was so anxious that he was scratching his head. Those demon soldiers are the demon king's subordinates. They must have received news that Mie's seal has been broken. That's why they sent people to bring him back, Mingxi said. But isn't Mie the former demon king's subordinate? Why is the current demon king bringing him back instead of just killing him? Yao Feng was still confused. It was the same in the human world. A new emperor would bring in new subordinates. Didn't the previous emperor kill all the subordinates who refused to return? Mie's identity is very special. He is one of the first 12 demon generals to be born in the demonic world. He is also the most powerful one. The demon king will not kill him. The demonic world needs someone powerful. Isn't the demon king afraid that Mie will continue to attack him after he returns? Ming Shi looked up at him with a faint smile. Do you think the demon king, who could even defeat the former demon king, will be afraid of a demon general? All right, he had asked a stupid question. Yao Feng wondered if there was something wrong with his brain. Otherwise, he would not have asked such a stupid question. Oh no! Ajur suddenly exclaimed. What happened? Ming Shi asked. Those two guys disappeared again, Ajur said helplessly. You mean Feng Yanran and O'Brien? Ming Shi raised his eyebrows. It was not easy to find them, but they went missing again. What kind of luck was this? Who else could it be? Feng Wu, I'm hungry. Touching her stomach pitifully. Let's look for them first. If we can't find them, there's no other way, Ming Shi said. They had already tried their best. If the teacher asked them about it when they returned to school, they would have an answer. Yao Feng also helped because of the 7-colored phoenix. Unfortunately, they had searched everywhere, but there was still no sign of them. They did not know where they had been washed away by the sea. If they were unlucky, they might have been eaten by a water-type demon. If they could not find them, Ming Shi and the others would not just wait here. They decided to go to the Three Leaves Island to continue their quest. As for Feng Yanran and the others, they would have to pray for themselves. If they were lucky, they should be fine. Ming Shi and the others were going to the Three Leaves Island. Yao Feng, of course, could not go with them. His family had stayed on the island for generations to guard the seal. Now that the seal was gone, and the demon under the seal had returned to the demon realm, he did not have to guard Yao Feng Island anymore. He saw the signal that his brothers had sent him earlier. The others had already moved to another island. He had to hurry over. Yao Feng bid farewell to Ming Shi and the others and went on his journey alone. Ming Shi and the others decided to go back to the hidden boat and take it to the Three Leaves Island. Using magic, they quickly moved forward on the sea. Soon, they arrived at the place where the ship was anchored. However, there was nothing here. The ship was gone. There was nothing left. It could have been driven away by someone, or blown away by the wind and waves. Or, if luck was worse, the ship sank. Chapter 299. Without a boat to travel on, Ming Shi and the others fell into a small predicament. Fortunately, this predicament did not bother them for too long. Don't forget that they still had the Fengwu girl by their side. The Fengwu girl's circle of friends had always included all kinds of species. Under the efforts of the Fengwu girl, they were lucky enough to find a water-type magical beast nearby that agreed to take them to the Three Leaves Island. Fengwu and the others' transportation problem was solved, but the other three people who went missing in the sea were not so lucky. Let's talk about Feng Yanran and O'Brien first. After these two guys were washed into the sea by the seawater, they were suddenly sucked into the whirlpool at the bottom of the sea. They disappeared into the depths of the sea along with the whirlpool. As for where they would appear next time, it was uncertain. The other one, Zicheng, was luckier than the other two. After all, the original female lead had the protection of the system. When no one was paying attention to her, the girl directly entered the system space and avoided a disaster. Zicheng hid in the space and continuously used her mana to recover her body. After drinking a few bottles of health potions, her seriously injured body finally recovered. Her injuries were almost healed. System, what's the situation outside? After hiding in the system space, Zicheng did not go out. She did not think that the Devil General's strength would be so strong. It was simply terrifying. Host, it's calm outside. The system's cold voice came. Hearing this, Zicheng finally heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, the scene of the sky collapsing and the earth shattering outside was too terrifying. Just thinking about it now made Zicheng's scalp tingle. This time, it could be said that she had suffered heavy losses. The two things she wanted to obtain were not in her hands. The Rainbow Phoenix had been snatched away by Ming Shi, and the demon-suppressing sword had been taken away by the Demon General. She had not obtained either of these things, but she had spent too many favorability points. It was not easy for her to accumulate favorability points, but this time, she had spent so much, which made her heart ache. Forget it, she'd better look for the other members of her team first. She had to complete the traveling mission this time. At most, she would seize the time to gain more favorability points while she was doing the mission. She believed that her favorability points would rise very quickly. Ming Shi and the other two sat on the turtle's back and sailed on the calm sea. Probably because of the storm just now, there was a rainbow hanging in the sky and seabirds flying on the sea surface from time to time. Everything seemed so calm and peaceful. The gentle sea breeze and the tranquil sound of the waves made people drowsy. Fengwu sat on the tortoise's back, her little head leaning against Ming Shi's chest as she fell asleep. Ajur was lying on the tortoise's back, crossing his legs and humming. He looked very relaxed. Ming Shi sat there motionlessly, allowing Fengwu to lean on him. The expression on his face was very gentle. Occasionally, when Fengwu tilted her head, he would gently adjust her head to a comfortable position. After sailing on the sea for 7 days, they finally arrived at the Three Leaves Island. The Three Leaves Island was an ordinary island shaped like a clover. There was no real ruler on the island. There was only an old sword grandmaster who had built a castle in the middle of the island. Although the old sword grandmaster was the strongest person on the island, he wasn't the ruler of the island. The residents of the island didn't need to pay taxes to the old sword grandmaster. Of course, the old sword grandmaster didn't need to care about the lives of the residents of the island. The relationship between the two sides had always been like well water not interfering with the river water. It could be said that the two sides lived peacefully. On the Three Leaves Island, there was a special product called the tricolor shell. The tricolor shell, as the name implied, was a shell made of 3 different colors. The tricolor shell would produce a pearl that emitted 3 different colors. It was called the tricolor pearl. Many noble ladies and ladies were very fond of jewelry made of the tricolor pearl. Therefore, jewelry merchants often paid money to the pearl divers on the Three Leaves Island. It was just that tricolored shellfish were not common and it was very difficult to find one. Moreover, this kind of tricolored shellfish had a certain attacking power. If one did not pay attention, they would be injured. Therefore, it was not easy to collect pearls. Often, a pearl could be sold for dozens of gold coins. The jewelry merchants who received the pearls could easily sell them for hundreds or thousands of gold coins after some processing. This business was simply explosively profitable. Ming Shi's mission this time wasn't to collect the tricolor pearl, but to collect 10 tricolor flowers. The tricolor flower was a kind of flower that grew underwater. It could only be found on the Three Leaves Island. The tricolor flower was the companion flower of the tricolor shell. Therefore, it could only be found on the Three Leaves Island. At first, it was agreed that Ming Shi would bring back Feng Yanran and O'Brien, while Mo Gue would be responsible for finding the tricolor flowers. This way, neither side would be delayed. However, when the two sides met, they found out that not only had they failed to bring back the girls, but even Mo Gue and the others hadn't completed the task of collecting the tricolor flowers. This task wasn't difficult. As long as one wanted to find the tricolor flower, it was impossible to not find it. However, after meeting up with Riot and the others, they found out that they had only collected 3 tricolor flowers. Although the tricolor flower wasn't easy to find, it was impossible to find 3 in a dozen days. It must be known that the tricolor flower wasn't as popular as the tricolor shell on the Three Leaves Island. The tricolor flower was only a kind of dye that could be used to dye cloth. However, the dyed cloth would appear in 3 colors. Very few people would appreciate a cloth with 3 colors. The people of the Heavenly Wind continent still preferred monochromatic clothes. Even if they occasionally added other colors to their clothes, they would at most sew some edges on their sleeves or necklines. They would definitely not make a single piece of clothing with multiple colors. Because of this, unlike the tricolor pearl, no one would be interested in the tricolor flower. Even the locals weren't interested in picking it. Logically speaking, this task should be easy to complete. However, it had been more than 10 days, and there wasn't much progress. They had only collected 3 tricolor flowers. This efficiency was too low. When Ming Shi asked about the tricolor flower, Mildy heard that Ming Shi didn't bring back her fiancé, and was very sad and disappointed. Senior Ming Shi, why didn't you bring O'Brien back? Why didn't you bring him back? Why? Her cries got louder and louder, each one sharper than the last. Mildy, this is all an accident. Senior Ming Shi can't control it, right? Riot was much more rational than Mildy. After listening to Ming Shi's story, he really felt that it wasn't Senior Ming Shi's fault. It could only be said that Feng Yanran and O'Brien were unlucky. However, Mildy shook her head and shouted, "No, it must be because he refused to help me find O'Brien. He must be taking revenge on O'Brien for not listening to him. That's why he deliberately didn't bring my O'Brien back." You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.